Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 126 of the Xbox Hall Gamers podcast. This week, it's just Gio and I.
Welcome.
We were hoping to have Cameron on, but he's sick, unfortunately. So we wish him all the best, and hopefully he gets better soon. But we're going to talk about the Xbox press conference. I mean, last week we kind of did a bit of a dive into the Summer Games Fest show and some of the stuff surrounding that. So we're mostly going to talk about the Xbox show that happened. We also did a show live. You can check out the VOD for that. It's very scuffed because I did it on the fly. But you can check that out. Otherwise, we're going to kind of just go over some of our thoughts now that the dust has settled a little bit. Along with kind of any other, some of the smaller conferences. Ubisoft did some stuff, and there were a couple other showcases that had a few reveals that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But as always, we're doing the show live on Twitch. Xbox Hall of Gamers is the place to find us. Come say hi. That's pretty much all there is to it. You know, come interact with the chat. We got Venom. We got Venom in the chat for the first time. He found the podcast 2 months ago. Just caught us live for the first time. Welcome. Welcome. Good. Great to have you. All right. Well, I guess we'll probably start. We've got a community question here from Cameron, who wasn't able to make it, but he says, what is your number one memorable boss fight you've ever experienced?
Oh, all right.
That's a hard question.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I would like to think that probably some of my more recent boss fights have been some of the best. Like some of the stuff in Lies of P I've kind of really enjoyed.
Yes.
So, and I'm just finding it really satisfying lately, just being able to get the timing right and absolutely everything. Because I'm not one of the people that dodge out of the way with all the moves in these games. I actually, take the time to learn to parry properly. So, get in there and die a million times. So...
Oh, that's right. Hang on. I just realized our cameras are fucked up, actually. So let me just fix that.
Yep.
It's all good. And I will just change that. Thank you, Chin Doctor.
Yeah. You're showing as Jake and I'm showing as Matt. Is that what you're fixing?
There we go. That should be fixed now. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Easy.
Yeah. There we go.
I like Lies of P is such a great answer for that. I really feel like we've had like a renaissance of really cool, interesting boss fights with the way that like the Souls genre has kind of taken over, right? Like that the thing that most people talk about in the game are like the cool environments and the awesome bosses, right? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Melania speaks for herself in Elden Ring. I've not played it, but like the people, just good and bad, just talk about just fighting Melania. So
true. Yeah, it's so true. And I think that I'm trying to think of other examples. Like Shadow of the Colossus is one that stands out to me because that game is nothing but boss fight after boss fight. Like there aren't any like, little enemies or anything. Like it's all just like big set piece boss battles, and they're all, well, not all, but most of them are absolutely fantastic.
Yep. There was another one I'm trying to think of. If you have another one, I'll just quickly try and see if I can find it.
Yeah, another one that sort of springs to mind, like when I played through Sekiro. I mean, again, we're talking about the Soulsborne games, but Genichiro was probably one of my favorite boss fights in that game because he is kind of your first like real big test. Yep. Whereas like you kind of have to learn the mechanics quite well to be able to get through him, and he was one of the few bosses that I like beat the first time I did it when I got to it, but like by the skin of my teeth. Like it was really like a really close battle. And then the subsequent playthroughs, I managed to just like smash through him, and it was like, man, this was actually pretty easy. And for the most part, like he has an idea of timing. He has like a ranged attack and a short range thing, but he telegraphs quite well, and you can kind of counter a lot of his stuff. Sekiro was a fantastic game in so many ways. I mean, I still feel like it's bullshit in some areas, but overall, I feel like it just has like so much to offer.
Yeah, the thing that I was thinking of was the Shattered Throne dungeon in Destiny 2.
Oh, okay.
So this is one of those. It's one of those deep dungeony kind of things where it's really built for taking in multiple people and it's super tough. But if you really want to solo it, you can solo the shit out of it.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of really good bosses in that. So the final one at the end is called Karu, I believe, which is okay. But in the middle of that, actually battling Vorgoth was really tough. So basically, it's a huge squarish kind of room, and you have to, and basically he just spawns in the middle, and you have to go around the outside, clear like four different areas to actually pull off, making him vulnerable to actually attack him.
Mm.
I'm trying to think of what they are. I think they're kind of like little portals or something like that. I'm trying to think. Um, yeah, here we go. So you have to wait, no, that's the wrong one. Let me just find this one here. So there's terrible, terrible. Oh, yeah, so I mean I'll talk about the final one. You actually have to get stacks of like on the so I guess kind of the tank enemies and stuff like that to actually pull off destroying to make them vulnerable, and they're only vulnerable for a little bit of time, and
Mm.
then it goes back and stuff like that. It's been a while since I've done this, so it's one of those things where it's like, am I remembering it properly? What am I doing? And the themes of these things is basically, you have to take out the big guys. The big guys, they give you get something that makes the boss vulnerable. Like you have to actually collect bits that build up a meter, and then they're vulnerable for a short amount of time, and then you have to do it all again. And the thing about the Vorgoth boss, which is has I guess it kind of teaches you what is at the end of the final boss by doing some of the stuff in the middle boss. You know how
Yeah.
you're doing a dungeon, you kind of learn a little bit from the
Learn
midway
the
boss, and then you
mechanics
go
as
to
you
the end
kind of
one.
go through.
So
Yeah.
that's the kind of thing that you have to get doing. You have to build up stacks of Vorgoth to actually make them weak. And the problem with that is trying to do it solo is every single enemy spawns again with the next wave.
Right.
So if you're not taking down the boss very quickly, you basically have no chance unless you're super good at just jumping around and doing a whole bunch of stuff. Eventually, I got that dungeon done solo, and you can imagine you die at the midway point on the midway boss a bunch of times,
Mm-hmm.
and then you get to the end, and you then die on the ending boss. So, and then you kind of have to do the whole thing again, or it's
Oof.
like once a week thing
Yeah.
sometimes,
Right.
things like that. So that was one of my most challenging ones because, I was hell bent on doing it solo. It was one of the earliest deep dungeon kind of areas that they put into the game. I did do it quite late into the life of Destiny, basically when I had a year of exclusively playing Destiny 2 and basically Call of Duty Zombies content.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
all I did. And then that's the kind of one of the final things I did before, all of the stuff happened with the server changes, they taking the content away and all that kind of stuff. So, which I still think you can do Shattered Throne in there now, but I haven't really checked to see if they've deleted it since then. But I think it's still there.
Yeah. I think they were doing something with vaulting, right? But I'm not sure what that will
Yeah, they
do.
did.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a real
So, and
shame.
they're releasing the final, oh, they've just released the final expansion. Well, the final shape. You'd think with a name like Final Shape, it's the final expansion. But
It sounds like it.
yeah, I mean, basically, Marathon's coming. Destiny's basically dead to them. It's gotta be the final expansion with all the ups and downs that we've kind of seen going on with it. So, but yeah, that's
Yeah.
probably my big one.
Yeah. That's
So,
a good one. That's a really good one. I'm trying to think if there's anything like boss fights are almost kind of a rarity in video games these days. You know. Obviously you think about like Sekiro and like Dark Souls obviously springs to mind for me because that's one of my favorite games
hmm
ever, and so there are like so many great boss fights in there. There are a lot of bad ones too, but
yeah.
Elden Ring. But outside of those, I'm just thinking of games that have boss fights. Like a lot of it is like, oh well, it's a cutscene boss fight, or it's just kind of like he's a generic dude that shoots you or whatever, and it's kind of like not really. Yeah, like a lot of games don't really have great boss design anymore. It seems like it's kind of a slightly more old school style of thinking.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just like
yeah.
going through my list of like games that I've highly rated. It's like Dishonored kind of had boss fights, but not really because it's like a stealth game for the most part.
Yeah.
Nier had some boss fights. Actually, Nier had some good ones. Some of those actually, well, there are a lot of good ones in the Jedi series, the Star Wars Jedi, like Fallen Order and Survivor had some great boss fights, but I can't tell you any of them because they're huge fucking spoilers for that game because they're all very like impactful stuff. But I mean, lightsaber fights against like Inquisitors and stuff is like the pure like Star Wars fantasy of just like being a fucking badass fighting another like a dark Jedi and all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'm just trying to think of anything else. Like yeah, like Persona 5 had some okay boss fights, but that's kind of not really the thing that sticks out to me a lot. Um,
Yeah, I think the other stuff that I'd probably go back to would be kind of just the old side-scrolling games and stuff like that, I think,
mm,
more than anything else. I can't think of anything very specifically, but anything with waves, really,
yeah,
it's with that one. So,
yeah, I'm with
you
you.
know,
All right, well, hopefully that answers your question there, Cameron. Let's get into the news, and by that I mean let's talk about what happened at the Xbox Showcase. So we did do the show live. So it was myself, Cameron, Kirby, and Shane. Got up nice and early, or didn't go to bed, one or the other, to watch all the stuff. And there was quite a few announcements at the showcase. Have you caught up on the showcase completely, Kiara?
I did watch the Xbox One and all of the Call of Duty one as well. So yeah, completely up to date. So yeah, I uploaded my own recording of that after the fact, so I didn't watch it live or anything. So
Well worth checking that out.
yeah,
We'll go kind of I think just like announcement by announcement and kind of give some
I think
thoughts.
so. Yeah.
But like just at the top, like what's your overall thoughts?
Overall thoughts, it was really solid. There were a couple of things that kind of, brought the old smile to the face, I think, where the secrets that the games that we thought were dead that aren't dead
Yeah.
were the ones that really bounced back, I think, with that one. So it was really, really good. I think and a lot of people seem to think it was really solid. Overall, definitely one of the better uh things that they've done. Okay. So the main thing that I pulled out of this was I was happy, and I think I said this to you while we were playing the other night, is that I really liked that Matt, Phil, and Sarah were all happy and confident. They really needed to show that Xbox is still there and Xbox is still at its, still has potential to move forward. And like the last time we saw Sarah, she was beat down.
Well, yeah, that interview with Bloomberg was not great.
It was
Yeah.
a terrible interview.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it was just really, really nice to see that stuff pop up. So yeah, so that was one of the highlights. Just kind of like just seeing them back in action on stage and stuff like that, and not over showing or putting too much out there. It was just very, we're confident, we're here. There's future stuff going on. Yeah, so
And they seem to have a lot to talk about. I didn't put it in the news, but there was a story about some talk going around that like apparently they had like a bunch of other games that they could have put into the showcase, and it was just kind of too long, which is interesting. It kind of makes me interested in like what they picked for this, and we'll kind of go through the list and kind of maybe like why.
yep, yeah, definitely.
Kirby in the chat says 7 out of 10 rating for other people, but 4 out of 10 for him. I can kind of see where he's getting at. I've seen a lot of positive sentiment towards this showcase. I guess especially considering how the PlayStation showcase was kind of a bit lackluster in a lot of regards. And of course everyone's going to do the comparisons. People weren't thrilled about the Summer Games Fest either. They kind of rated that quite lowly. So
That actually I haven't watched yet. I've been too focused on the little stuff to check out that.
there's a few things in there. We kind of talked about it last week, but it's like there's a few things in there that are actually like
well, you can let me know how your card went or whatever it is.
My bingo card. Well, yeah, we're about to find out because we did make some crazy predictions for this, and I got pretty much all of them wrong. Kirby points out an interesting point, and I think we'll come back to this around the looking for titles that you haven't heard of before. That's kind of what I'm here for as well too. Like I like hearing about like weird, interesting stuff that just gets like thrown out there, and you're like, oh, cool. Like I didn't know this was happening. really excited. And there were a few of those in here that I was like, yes, absolutely. But yeah, let's. I mean, look, they started with Black Ops 6. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you've played a lot of Call of Duty over the years, Kier.
Yes. So
How do
my
you
familiar.
feel about that?
Uh, so there's a couple of things. Like as I said, I did recently do a year of Call of Duty Zombies, and so I'm still in very much in the oh yeah, I can take more of this. I'm really pumped to kind of check this out.
Hmm.
And they are going back to some of the older styles of zombies. So when I say that, I mean like they're doing proper round, they're promising proper round-based stuff. They're bringing back gobblegums from Black Ops 3. You could see one of the guys there that were talking had gobblegums in a jar, and then underneath it there was a Prima guide for Call of Duty Black Ops 3.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
catch that. Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, and it was just on the side table. Now, I was watching Mr. Waffle Waffle Ruffle Waffle's video that he put up a couple of days ago on, what's wrong with Call of Duty with Black Ops 6. And there is actually that middle book there is like something to do with, oh, we made a bunch of promises, but we weren't ready to listen kind of thing. And that's
Mm,
actually kind of what the book was called. Um, so you could go check that out. That's really, really good. There's a lot of positive stuff in there, and he's got a lot of background in that. So, to bring it back to the older Call of Duty stuff. Now, I'm getting away from what he said because is all basically what I'm thinking is that there's some trouble with what they're doing going back to an old system when they've created new systems.
sure. Yeah.
So they've set expectations with open world zombies, and everybody hated it where at the like right at the start of the Modern Warfare 3 stuff.
Mm.
But then everyone was pumped and everyone was really loving it.
It, I mean, this is a tale as old as time for them, right? Because it's always
Yeah,
back in the day. It was like, oh,
yeah,
Infinity Ward got a year, and then Treyarch got a year, and then Infinity Ward got a year, and then Treyarch got a year, and everyone was like, oh man, it's the Treyarch. Yeah, it's gonna be
yeah,
shit.
yeah. So, but the problem is that this is the Treyarch year.
Mm.
Well, I mean, they helped with zombies last year
Sure,
as well.
exactly.
They
Nowadays,
were
it's kind of
basically
like
the
doesn't. Yeah,
zombies team. So, so pretty much they were just relegated to the zombies house to do all of the zombies work and help out with all the teams in all their games and all that kind of stuff. Um, and I understand that they want to kind of bring things back a little bit, but when they've already built systems, um, they should be building on the systems, not going, oh, you really like this, we'll just do this again.
yeah.
So, hmm,
And I think
so
it has been hard for Call of Duty in the past when you've had multiple development studios working on things concurrently,
yeah,
where it's like you have an innovation in one game, and then it's like, oh shit, well, we're halfway through development of this other game, and we didn't put that in here, or we haven't got that much of it in there, or we didn't realize it was going to be such a big hit. So we kind of didn't do much with that, or we didn't change it, or we didn't evolve it, because we're not. It's not like, oh, we do one game and then we start the next one. It's like, no, they happen kind of at the same time, or at least
yeah,
they have a lot of crossover.
yeah,
But what did you think of the trailer overall? Like, are you excited for Black Ops 6? I mean, the big announcement obviously was that it's coming to Game Pass day one.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
some
yeah.
ridiculous
I
amount of
am.
players,
Yeah. They said in the campaign there'll be multiple ways to play and I guess finish levels again. It looks like they might be doing some time-based
which
stuff.
is cool. They did that in two, I
Yeah,
think, right?
yeah. I think it was two mostly. Three, they couldn't pull it off because they kind of had to tie up a couple of stories and it was way too far in the future.
Mm.
I actually never actually played Black Ops 2 campaign.
I loved
It was
Black Ops 2's
always,
campaign was fucking fantastic because they had the
yeah.
split perspective stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of like, do I want to deal with that or don't I? And I was always on the Modern Warfare train
Mm.
back then. So I love the multiplayer in Black Ops games and then the campaign in the Modern Warfare games. So
Yeah.
that's pretty much where I saw with that. And then I completely ignored zombies because I didn't like what Gears of War was doing after Gears of War 2. I'm like, I don't like this, put down turrets and this and that. And I'm like, oh, anything round based, I'll just go do away with it. And I didn't pay attention to it. Now these days I'm paying a lot more attention to it and I actually really like it and stuff like that. So
Mm.
but yeah, I actually would be really keen to check this out. Yeah. So I think it's really it it could be good.
Yeah, the time frame is also interesting. 1999,
Hmm.
Berlin Wall's fallen. Like it, Cold War is over, quote unquote. Um, Interesting time period to set a game in. Getting a little close to the kind of Modern Warfare
Hmm.
2007 style,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that they were basically trying to tie some of that to Modern Warfare at some point anyway. Um,
yeah.
so to some respect, at least one or two characters crossed over or hinted at some point, I think,
Hmm.
from memory. I know at least there was some stuff like that in Zombies, which is always, alternate reality or they actually made it part of the reality somehow.
Yeah, they did some weird stuff
Um,
with that, right? I still don't quite
yeah, they
understand
did.
how that
Oh, yeah.
works.
Can you tell me what the Dark Ether storyline is? Just tell me everything you know
I have
about
no,
it.
yeah, like I'll go fucking watch it like an hour
Yeah.
long YouTube video that'll explain all of it to
Yeah.
me and all the intricacies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they're continuing the Dark Ether storyline to basically in Zombies, and that was all of their Easter eggs. They're pretty much relying on you to be up to date, I guess, with all of the Easter
Right.
eggs in all of
Okay.
the
Yeah.
games. So that carries over from they started it again in Cold War, which you guys brought up in your predictions show. He was talking to Jake, he didn't know where that kind of tied in,
Hmm.
or if that was canon, the Cold War's canon at all to any of that. And it was stuff happened at the end of Black Ops 4 if you followed all of the Easter eggs.
Right.
And then basically, essentially, like the Big Bang, essentially, no, not, I mean, with the characters wise, it's like somehow created a new universe, and then this was the new timeline with hints back to the old one, which did exist at some point.
Hmm.
So, and then that game carried between Cold War. What's the other one? Is it Vanguard? I think it's Vanguard. Yeah, Vanguard, Call of Duty Vanguard. So it was Cold War Vanguard, and then they continued it in the Modern Warfare game,
Right.
Modern Warfare 3, I believe.
3, yeah, because they didn't do
Yeah.
zombies for two, or one or two, yeah, right.
No, they didn't. No, this is the first time that had it. So, and then that's been a whole storyline
Hmm.
across all three games. So the weird thing is that they started tying that storyline into Modern Warfare 3 when the other two games, so Cold War was a Black Ops game,
Yep.
Vanguard was its own game, um, with zombies tied into the Cold War. So
Hmm.
the only link between all of these games has been the the zombies in terms of how all of those link.
Right. Okay.
Um,
Because the stories themselves, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I get what
yeah,
you're saying.
yeah. When the Modern Warfare, the classic Modern Warfare series, only ever had the Spec Ops mode or whatever it was.
Mm.
It was distinctly different gameplay, but then they added, you know, zombies to it.
Yeah. Nice.
So it's effectively part of the storyline
All right.
now
Yeah,
of
like
some
I'm
sort.
like I'm
So
fine with it. Like, I'm
yeah,
interested in kind of what they're going to do with it. It sounds like they're going to release it as part of the
yeah,
same list as Modern Warfare 2 and 3.
yes,
So
yeah,
I'm going to have to play it at
yeah.
some stage.
It's already been updated. Like they
Ugh.
said, there was things over the all over the internet about it being 309 gigabytes
That's right. Yes.
for an install. So that's 309 or 306, whatever it worked out to be, depending on your platform. Uh, if you had every single game installed at the same time, that's part of that package,
Right.
which
Okay.
is your
Yeah.
Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and the new one and stuff like that, with all of the updates and patches and HD textures and all that kind of stuff that whatever they put in there as updates. I went to manage games on Call of Duty today,
Mm-hmm.
and there was an option there for pack one for Black Ops 6. And when I clicked on it to install, it said 77 gig.
Okay. I mean, that's still
So
fucking pretty big, but
yeah.
yeah, but it's not
So yeah,
309. Yeah, I get what you're
you'll
saying.
still need the base Call of Duty pack, which is probably like 60 gig on its own, regardless of any other content being installed. And then there'll be a choice of installing zombies or multiplayer or campaign separately, whether or not you keep that in or get rid of it. So
Right. Okay.
mm, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah, it was a big first announcement. Everyone seems pretty excited for it. I guess we'll see how it goes. We also saw Doom, The Dark Ages. This
Yes.
looked fucking incredible.
It does.
I'm
It
so
really
excited.
does. Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't finished the campaign in Doom Eternal. You have,
I have,
haven't you?
yeah.
At
I'm
least
going back
once? Yeah.
to redo it as
Okay.
well.
Mm. So I would be super keen to kind of go and do that now. So because all I have to do is the campaign stuff and all the stuff that you probably have done or need to do campaign related. I haven't touched that at all. So
It's pretty straightforward, and you
uh,
can play it on easy,
mm.
so it's not like
Yeah,
too overly
okay.
difficult.
Yeah. So if you just want to cruise through it,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Mm.
yeah. So this is going to be a prequel set in the he's got like a cool cape, a fur cape, and he's got a fucking Captain America shield with blades on it and shit. Like it just looks so fucking cool. Like it looks very very Doom, but like very like um almost like kind of like a Quake style like castles and like dark mythology stuff, and I don't know.
Yeah. I was confused as to how it fit into the series. Do you kind of get an idea of where it
This is definitely a
fits?
prequel. This is definitely like this.
Mm.
This is like the leading. This is what's leading up to Doom 2016, basically.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
They fill in a lot of the lore in Doom Eternal as to like who he is and how he got to where he was, how he
Okay.
ended up in
That's
that
what I'll be missing.
sarcophagus. I think is pretty much what this will show is kind of what's happening in those early years. Yeah,
Mm.
the fucking dragon and shit. Yeah, or Kirby points out, yeah, all that tech from Scalebound going into this. Exactly, they've got
Yeah, of
that
course. Why
dragon
not?
flying technology.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully it's a little lighter on the multiplayer stuff because I think they've kind of had a few stabs at multiplayer and it really has not worked out for them. And I just feel like it's just not the right thing for Doom, unfortunately. Like, Doom is a single player game.
Yeah, they really need to bump up Quake a bit with that.
Yeah,
And just
exactly.
kind of stick to that arena-based combat stuff. Doom's a bit convoluted these days. Yeah, yeah.
Um, we also had State of Decay 3. I don't really. I'm like, okay,
Yep,
sure,
yep. High quality, like trailer, low
Yeah, with
quality
like, it looked like, yeah,
textures.
look, in
Like,
engine at least, at the very least, right? Like, I think.
yeah, yeah. There was a lot of stuff that needed work, I think, in visually for that game, I think. So,
Uh,
but I'd be interested. Like the trailer bit at the end with them driving up to the bridge
yeah.
looked really nice.
hmm
So, um, but yeah, all of the in-game stuff, I'm not quite sure. So,
Yeah, we didn't
but
really.
I mean, I'm
We
keen.
didn't get a
So I'll
lot
try it
about
out.
it, and
Yeah,
we also didn't get like a release date or kind of any real,
yeah, yeah.
like very little about the game itself, which is weird considering they revealed this like 4 years ago.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that was one of
they
my
said they were
favorite.
doing it. Like they
Yeah,
didn't really.
yeah,
Yeah, again, this is kind of our
yeah.
first real look at it. But
The actual trailer that they released for State of Decay, the original reveal one, amazing. And the guttural sounds that came from the animals, like crying at you as they, at the main character of the trailer, was amazing. It just sounded really good. But of course, a lot of that doesn't translate down in gameplay. I never really played State of Decay 2 or 1
I've got
at
one
all.
sitting in the started backlog that I need to finish for 360.
Yeah,
But
I loaded up either 1 or 2 for Game Pass quests because you know how they get you with that,
yeah,
really. Back when they were telling you to load up a game every day and earn an achievement or whatever. So one of them is sitting on my tag, so I should check it out. So
yeah. And Kirby's also keeping track in the chat of how many of these are coming to Game Pass.
nice.
So
Yeah.
3 out of 3 for now. But this one was probably the divisive one. This was Dragon Age, Veilguard. It's
The I think everyone was calling Dragon Age Dreadwolf Dad, and
yeah,
they didn't
Dad, yeah,
like it.
exactly. So they were like,
Yeah,
no, Dav. Dav is what we're going with now.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
this trailer was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, you saw what I put in the chat. Was it yesterday, I think? I'm like, this is kind of giving me Redfall vibes, this trailer.
yeah, like a very like quippy and kind of like
Exactly. Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
And then I mean, both in this show and in the PlayStation show, both had separate 5v5 shooters with exactly the same
Yes, yeah.
kind of uh animated trailers. But yeah, so that's another story because
Yeah.
both of those shooters look exactly like. Oh, it's the Marvel one, and then another one. There's like three coming. I think Concord is the one that's on PlayStation.
Yes, Concord, and then we'll get to
Yeah, yeah.
Frag, whatever it was called. But yeah,
Yes.
Veilguard looks. I mean, like this trailer was not a very good trailer. Okay, it reminded me very much of a trailer for a movie And the one that I sort of pulled to mind was the latest Dungeons and Dragons movie, where it's like, hey, a bunch of like, misfits get together to save the world or whatever, go on an adventure. And I'm like, okay, like, sure, but that's kind of a little weird for the tone of Dragon Age, especially considering how Dragon Age Inquisition ended.
Yeah.
I mean, look, like I know some people have this like rose-tinted glasses thing of being like Dragon Age was always like a super serious, like it's like half of that game was fucking jokes. Like it was, like there was like if you started as the noble house line, one of the guys is like, yeah, every big adventure starts with you going into a cellar and killing rats. And I'm like, yes, it does, because it's a fucking RPG. Like, it definitely had a lot of dark moments, but it also had a lot of hilarious shit in it. And I think that the game being quippy and stuff, I don't think is the worst thing in the world, especially because, we're a long way out. It's been, 10 years since Inquisition.
I mean, it couldn't be any worse than that area you spent most of the game in Inquisition, yeah.
The Fade.
Yeah.
Fuck the Fade. Yeah. Oh, you mean the Hinterlands? Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, one of those. Yes. I it's another one that I never got to. I played Dragon Age 1 and tried to. It was pretty simple, I think, compared to the
pretty
other
straightforward,
one. Yeah.
This kind of looks like they're kind of. Apparently, it's going to be mission based, so it isn't going to be like a big open world thing for the most part.
Okay. Yeah.
Kirby asked, like, is this going to be for Dragon Age fans, or is it going to be popular across more of a population? Well, apparently they came out today and said that, like Dragon Age, in terms of, like, copies sold, is more successful than Mass Effect ever has been. Which is crazy to think about, right? Because when people talk about BioWare, most of the time they're talking about KOTOR and Mass Effect are the two big ones. Are their sci-fi. They don't really talk a lot about Dragon Age, although it is, like, yeah.
Okay. I guess you have to think of it maybe... if you think about somebody that has rose-tinted glasses for older Dragon Age, and you see that rose-tinted glasses effect in people that like Mass Effect, the problem is that the people that like Mass Effect that way like Andromeda.
Yes, like very few people like Andromeda, but I get what you mean.
Yeah,
yes, I get
yeah. It's distinctly different in terms of expectations, I think. So
yeah, and this looks very much like it's taken. And again, I will say they did also release a gameplay trailer yesterday, which looks like a lot more like does not look like the trailer does at all, really, in terms of like art style. A lot of people were like, "Oh, it looks like fucking a Fortnite character reveal," and I'm like, "Yeah, kind of like the sort of colorful kind of look. It's kind of off." But also, someone also pointed out that they used a 30 Seconds to Mars song in one of the Dragon Age Origins trailers, and everyone was like, "What the fuck is this?" They also used Marilyn Manson, which was a little better, but the BioWare has been famous to have very strange trailers for games that actually turn out to be pretty good. I'm cautiously optimistic. We are talking about a very different BioWare than the one who made those old games. Like most of those people have left.
Yeah.
But I like the Dragon Age series. I like the world. The world building is really cool. It's cool to see like a Tevinter city, which is, again, if you're a big if you're into the Dragon Age lore, we haven't really gone to that part of the world yet. It sounds like it's going to be like more mission based, more. It looks a lot more like Andromeda, like you said, or more like a Mass Effect 3, where it's quite streamlined.
I think it looks like some of the there was a few areas that kind of looked like they were really trying to focus a little bit on, I guess, scope. Like the scope seemed to be quite big.
Yeah.
But
but I understand why people are worried about it. I'm definitely going to I'll definitely check it out. I mean, it'll come to EA Access at some stage, right? So, yeah. And then we got Fallout 76. Do we care that they're doing an expansion? You can play as a ghoul now.
They definitely leaned in on the Fallout TV show vibe.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, they were like, we need to shoot this like it was basically right out of the show.
Yeah. We've got a set up. Let's do a 76 trailer right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It looked fine. I mean, they're doing Atlantic City. I think that's kind of,
Yeah, it's got more players than ever before, unless they've dropped off. I'm not quite sure. But Fallout 76 was getting a lot of people's attention.
Yeah, seems to be doing well, but I don't think I still am on the fence about starting an MMO.
Yeah.
Starfield DLC, they showed off Shattered Space, which they've already announced, and that's kind of come sometime this year. We didn't get like a firm release date for that.
Yeah, it did seem story heavy related. Like you'd have to kind of know what's kind of going at the end of the game to know, because I haven't finished that
Yeah, they
to
definitely
kind
it
of
definitely looks like
see.
they're leaning into like the
Yeah,
weirder stuff in
yeah.
that universe as opposed to the more like hard sci-fi, which
Mm.
I'm all about. Like, because I was
Yeah,
worried
yeah.
that the game was going to be kind of boring, and it was kind of boring to be honest. But this kind of looks like it's taking some of the more interesting ideas and maybe doing something with them. Very curious to see what this will actually include as like a package once they release it, because they also put out the Creators Club um, this week as well, which some people have.
Yeah, okay. So that's the mods and stuff now, isn't it?
Yep,
So on console?
yep, on console. Yep.
Yeah, okay, cool. All right, all right, all right. Yeah. Mm, mm.
They showed off the new World of Warcraft expansion, PC only.
Yeah, I thought for a second that some of that stuff in World of Warcraft was actually from Guild Wars for a second.
Yeah,
Like
right.
some of the,
I can see what you're
yeah,
saying. Yeah,
like the really, like I think it was from some of the original packaging on the original World of Warcraft. They had a specific elven creature of some kind. It was like a lady that showed up in the trailer, and I'm like, is this Skill Wars? But really, they were showing just like a lapse of over time and showing. I'm pretty sure it was just like bits of they had some Frozen Throne stuff in there, I
yeah.
think,
Lot
and
of like looking
like
back.
yeah. So and I couldn't tell what was part of the new stuff or if they were trying to kind of get people in like a reel essentially.
Yeah, Kirby points out
So
those shots from the
yes,
original
okay,
trailers. Yeah, yeah, right.
yes,
Which
okay,
makes a lot of
cool,
sense.
yeah, it does, yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is kind of a known quantity at this point. They've said that
Hmm.
they've got like a 3 expansion storyline planned out for
Yeah.
Warcraft. Not coming to consoles yet, which is kind of disappointing. I know there was. I know
Hmm.
Jake was kind of excited to maybe see that.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no dice. It looks like
Yeah,
just more PC stuff, more Warcraft. No big surprises.
yeah. I mean, I have it installed, but I've never ever played it. It was just kind of like you get the first X amount of time, I might give it a go, but I never actually loaded it up. That was when, people are jumping around between that and Final Fantasy, and it's like, do I play this? Do I play that? The last big buzz about World of Warcraft, people were playing that, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll download it and try it out, but I never did that.
Yeah,
So,
I played a little bit of it on like private servers and stuff, but I never kind of like was like I need to start paying money for this. It just never was one of those things that really jumped out at me.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, like Kirby says, it's free to level 20 for as many characters as you want. I think so. If
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do want
and
to give
I
it a try.
believe I don't know if you might know Kirby, they actually made it kind of a little bit more Final Fantasy where you just need one character to do everything now
Oh, that's handy.
instead of I heard that somewhere from another
Oh, okay.
podcaster or something. So,
Then
mm.
we get to something that really excited me was this Clear Obscura Expedition 33.
Yes,
This looks fucking great.
it really does. I actually really like this trailer. I'd probably have to go over the trailer again just to kind of see, but yeah, it was very nice.
Yeah, it's like a really stylistic art style, like really like
Mm,
paint. It talks about like painters and that kind of stuff. It's all based on
hmm.
some sort of famous painter. I can't remember his name.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's got like turn-based combat with like action elements
Hmm.
in it. It
Yep.
looks really, really interesting.
Yeah, that was the thing that really jumped out at me. I put it more closely towards like Final Fantasy VII Remake,
Yeah,
where with
right.
that you could pause the time. Like it's obviously a turn-based game, but there are a lot of actiony kind of things that you do, and then you kind of pause time at certain points to do particular combat moves and or choose things and then flow from that. And if it works out the way it looks on the trailers, having that happen in real time would be fucking amazing. Like just really solid. So yeah.
Yeah, there's basically some painter who's painting stuff, killing everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Kirby is kind of giving us the plot there on the sidelines there around like kind of
Yeah,
what the
nice.
idea is. I think yeah, it has a lot of like interesting mystery, interesting world, looks interesting like combat. Love the art style. I'm coming to Game Pass next year sometime apparently. We don't really have like
Yeah,
a firm
yeah.
date, but
Yeah.
2025. I'm hoping sooner rather than later. This looked really really good.
Yeah, I don't know which trailer it was. It could have been this one, but there was at least one trailer in this that actually did the inner world thing at the start. So
Yeah,
and
right.
I'm just like, oh yeah, okay. Yeah. I feel like it was kind of this one, but
Yeah,
yeah.
Mario RPG is a good
Mm,
reference there, Kirby.
mm.
We saw the first sort of gameplay for South of Midnight, which I was really happy to see that because I was worried that we was going to be missed out. But this is
Yep.
Compulsion Games, the guys who did We Happy Few, their latest thing, which seems to be set in like some sort of like alternate spirit world, bayou, American South kind of thing going on. I don't know. It's kind of it. You know, there's a catfish who got stuck in a tree, and there's a giant gator, and they didn't
Yep.
show a lot, but it's kind of got this like really interesting. I mean, if you saw the trailer from last year, that art style was like the kind of dropped frames art style, or like almost, I don't know what, how do you describe it? Like it's not like stop motion, but kind of
That's kind of what I was thinking. So this is the thing I brought up with you the other night when we were just playing Diablo. Wh- there are cutscenes that have like half of the animation frames that it's supposed to have, like a kind of like a picture book,
yeah,
I
sure,
guess.
yeah, sure,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But and then it would transition right into the gameplay, like if a boss shows up, that typical thing where a boss shows up, there's a cutscene, and then you do the gameplay, and then it goes straight into like smooth gameplay action.
Kind of jarring and interesting. I guess like
Yeah,
they kind of wanted to have their cake and eat it too, with like a stylistic stuff for the cutscenes, but a smooth
yeah,
60 for people
yeah. And you
playing
could
it.
really notice it with still images like buildings on a rooftop, and then the characters jumping around and actually being half the frame rate,
Yeah,
like as a stylistic design.
it kind of reminded me of
I
Sable.
Yeah, I kind of I said this the other night. I think it would probably make people sick seeing uh still images with half frame moving images and then going into smooth combat. And I'm just don't know. I
Yeah,
mean, it looks really good though. It looks like stunning. Like the designs that they're coming up with, like the catfish. Um,
and the gator and that
yeah.
kind of stuff. Yeah, like
So
it had
stuff
a.
like that. Yeah.
I'll give some thoughts about it towards the end as well
Mm.
because it kind of fits
Yeah,
into a
go for it.
category of stuff that I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
We also saw some gameplay for Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater,
Uh-huh.
which, again, there's not much to say there. It's basically a remake of the Metal Gear Solid 3, which is one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably maybe my second favorite. The original Metal Gear Solid is
Yeah.
my first love, but
Yeah. Yeah.
MGS3 is a fucking great game. Really cool to see
One of
it in
the
modern.
only ones that I haven't actually played. And
Well,
I have like the PSP game and stuff. Like there's a few of those, but the actual PSP game that's not on anything else. But yeah,
yeah, I mean,
I
like
need to play it.
this will be the way to play it. It looks like they're using the Fox engine.
Mm.
You can kind of see a lot of the stuff from MGS5, which
Hmm.
is also like if you think about it, is like almost like 10 years almost now. I think it's 2015 that came out, which is crazy
Yeah,
to
it
think about.
nearly. Mm.
But
Yeah.
very excited for this. Hope it does well.
Mm.
But it looks a very faithful remake. You know, like you're gonna go through the same beats. I don't think there's gonna be too much variation.
Mm.
Yeah, Kirby points out you
Yeah.
can use the legacy camera stuff as
Hmm.
well if you want to have the over the top as opposed to the behind the shoulder. Although I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of weird. But I guess some people enjoyed it.
I do like that we're seeing a lot more of those accessibility kind of things where you get a choice between the old and new styles with some of the remakes. So,
Sea of Thieves got a new trailer for season 13 that they're doing.
uh-huh.
I kind of predicted that I was thought maybe they were going to have another tie-in like they've done with kind of Pirates of the Caribbean and Secret of Monkey Island. I thought they might do something else there, but no, it looks like they're just kind of just doing another season. Doesn't really show much. Just gonna more content, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I don't know where I'm at with that game anymore. Like I want to play it, but there's a few things that are probably stopping me outside of, achievements that just don't function anymore.
Also,
So,
yeah,
yeah,
not
yeah,
a great feeling for sure.
yeah.
Flintlock. This is one we saw a little while ago, so we got kind of more of a sort of flashy kind of like trailer for it.
Yeah. I forgot about this game, and
Yeah, the one
when
with
I
the
started
triangle
to see it
portals and all
again,
that. Yeah,
when I started to see it again, I'm like, oh, this looks really familiar, but I just kind of like, yeah, I really like the look of it. I think it's really, really good. So,
yeah, because this one was supposed to come out last year, but I think it got delayed.
mm, mm,
But it's coming out like next month, so it's pretty soon. Coming to Game Pass.
yep.
It's a sort of Souls-like, it's like Souls light, I think, is kind of what they were going for. It's like a very Souls mechanic wise, but maybe not quite as crushingly difficult.
Yeah, it reminds me of the trailer that they did for Unreal Engine 5, one of the very first
Yeah,
ones they
yeah,
did,
yeah.
where you kind of had that character cruising across the landscape.
With the sand
Yeah,
and the rocks and stuff. Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying.
exactly. Yeah, and then it also looks like the colors look like Forspoken on the PlayStation,
Yeah,
actually. So,
I'm
I love
curious. I
it.
mean, it's made by the same guys who did Action, which I know did quite well.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah,
excited. Like, I love Souls likes, and it coming to Game Pass obviously is a nice easy sell.
yeah, yeah.
Um, we also, this was the biggest surprise to me. We saw the Perfect Dark reboot.
Yes. It took me a little bit until they said Agent Dark.
Yeah,
And then I was like, oh, hang on. This looks really good because it was kind of weird because it's not like the futuristic settings inside like buildings that look, out of
like
place.
sci-fi buildings. It
Exactly.
looks kind of
Yeah.
like future. It looks modern future, but like not like alien spacecraft.
Yeah. So because it was kind of more down to earth and stuff like that. But when they really started to show this game off, it looked really it was probably my gamer show in terms of like how im the tier of how impressed I was. But Crystal Dynamics getting in there and helping, like it's going to be really good. So I
Yeah.
think,
Kirby also reminded me. Yeah, I kind of mentioned that like it looked like it had a Titanfall 2 style of like parkour and sliding and running and kind of like
Mirror's Edgy kind of stuff.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
right.
totally. I love the look at that. So
Great.
it looked
Yeah.
really good. Yeah.
And like, but
Mm,
with like gadget stuff, and it looks like a fun mix.
mm,
Again, we have no, like, we got no information about like when this is coming out, and I
yeah.
think the biggest reason it was a surprise is because the rumor was that it was in kind of development hell and that it was nowhere
Mm,
near coming out. So I'm glad to see it. Glad to see some gameplay because that's more than we saw from a lot of the stuff. But
yeah.
yeah, definitely, I'm definitely
But
excited for that one.
it has a pulse. That's all we wanted to know,
Yeah,
really. So, and we got more. We got gameplays. So, but yeah, Age of Mythology, eh?
yeah. Age of Mythology. Cameron's not here to spout about it. It looks cool.
Yeah,
It looks
yeah,
good. I'm
yeah,
sure. Yeah, Cameron will
yeah.
play this day one. It'll be a
Mm,
solid game. I'm sure. Just I'm not really a big FPS guy, but I'll have a look at the achievement list. If it's not too bad, maybe we'll play a few games. I was always a big fan of playing as the Norse with Nidhogg.
yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, I never got to play this one. I originally was just playing the original Age of Empires and Age of Empires 2, but never actually came across a copy because I was just in a location where didn't have access to
sure.
copies of those. So, yeah, so I never got a chance. This will be a good chance to play it. So, yep.
We also saw Diablo 4. They showed off the expansion, Vessel of Hatred.
Yes. So, what do you think of that trailer?
Fuck, that trailer. Yeah, again, with the same joke that we made when we've been playing Diablo 4 is that they just
Yeah.
spend so much of the budget on these games, on these fucking trailers
Yeah.
and these
Yeah.
intro movies. It looked so good. It was
It does.
gruesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously plays, I mean, if you've played through the story of Diablo, I mean, Diablo's story is kind of like, whatever, but it
Yeah.
leads straight on from the end of the main game where you
Yeah,
basically,
I'm surprised that I remembered the character
yeah.
at the end of the story, right?
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
definitely
man.
have some problems with the Diablo story, especially certain events that happen to
Mm,
people where they do the dumbest things possible.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we've been really
Mm,
enjoying Diablo recently. So
yeah.
the expansion looks like it's October 8th for the expansion.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's going to be like a day one have to jump on it straight away thing because it's also very fucking expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, they're spruiking it all throughout the game. It's being updated every day with new anniversary stuff and, get this dog if is it a cat
Yeah,
that you get as a
you can get
pre-order?
you get a cat
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
pre-order the DLC or whatever.
Mm.
I mean, I want to hear reviews on the content first because Diablo has apparently come from a pretty rough spot, and while it is very, very good now and we're enjoying it, there's always the risk that they just kind of overcorrect and fuck things up. So, and I wouldn't put it past Blizzard because they've had a very rocky history with the Diablo series.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
We also saw some Fable. Yeah, okay. I have some thoughts.
All right.
I'm a big Fable fan. Yeah, Kirby said, "Did we see Fable?" Yeah, exactly. That's kind of my point. Like this felt like the reveal trailer, and it felt
Yep.
like almost the same trailer that we saw last year. where it was like, hey, introduction to the character, a little bit of gameplay, a little bit of world, and just like a narrator talking about like heroes and stuff over the top of it.
Yep.
And it was like, it felt like the same thing as Richard Owadi's thing that they did with the Giant last year. And didn't really feel like it added much. Like, we didn't get like a release date. Like, they said 2025, but we didn't really get any, like, didn't get a lot of gameplay, no deep dive, nothing. And
They did show a bunch of different fighting styles, though.
Yes, they did, yeah.
Which was,
But
I think, the
very,
biggest
very
take.
small amounts of them.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited, but also it's, like, hard to be excited when you just don't really feel like you know what the fuck this is.
And certain angles that main character looks great.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. I am not getting to the discourse around the character. It's a created character. You can make your own character. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh well.
Fragpunk was the one that you were talking about, which is the can you imagine releasing a 5v5 hero shooter these days?
I'm sorry, run that by me once more.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like, if you were like, hey, okay, you know that popular genre that was basically killed when Blizzard made Overwatch 5v5 and they released the sequel?
Oh, yeah. You mean, I thought Overwatch was still, like, banging.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, yeah, we're going to do that.
All right. So, basically, Overwatch is down, and we're looking for a replacement, and everyone's put their cards on the table now, and everything looks like Overwatch. Actually looks like Overwatch. All the maps look like Overwatch. All the environments look like Overwatch. The characters, they all have, as we said before, the same like witty trailer, right? With all of the animations and stuff like that. But they're really fighting for that position. And I mean, like, if they bring it and it fixes all the mistakes that Overwatch has made and taken away from people, then sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Kirby points out like 2.5-minute rounds, and yeah, short time to kill means it's going to be very, Valorant style, just like bang, 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 done, kind of like, which is like some people enjoy that. I'm very much like, as soon as I saw this, I was like, oh, is this going to be PvE or PvP? And then I saw PvP. I'm like, I'm out.
It did start to look really good in the trailer, like I think at the start, and when
the
they started to really
thing
show
and kind of changing the environment and things you can do with the game.
Yeah.
Like I think the idea is really, really fun, but to waste it on something like a 5v5 shooter that no one's going to play and is going to be dead in 5 minutes.
My big point on having 5v5 shooters that need, 30 characters is that's 30 characters of wasted potential.
Yeah.
You imagine they could all have their really, really good game?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, again, we'll see how it turns out, right? But I've just seen this. We've seen so many of these types of games just really just fail to launch, and I just don't see this one being any different.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not big on cards either. I don't really care about the trading cards and all that kind of like swapping or playing things like that. But I'd rather stick my traditional solitaire or Klondike. The transitions in game of things happening on the fly was nice.
Yeah, I think the idea behind it's like, hey, we flip the level upside down, or we do like big head mode, like kind of adding random party elements to those kinds of games. I think is an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's going to find an audience, to be honest.
Yeah, I think if anything, if you've chosen a loadout and you've got 3 set cards, it's going to be boring as fuck.
Yeah.
If you have to choose from a deck and you don't get a choice and you're picking random shit out, it's going to be a lot more engaging per player. If you're choosing decks and then going in with decks and the decks are different than other people's and you're doing it in a shooter, like I don't know, what is it, Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that?
You build your own deck kind of thing. That's an interesting idea. Yeah, like a loadout. Yeah.
So that would be nice. So, yeah.
We also saw Winterborough. There wasn't really much here. Sort of cozy survival game that looked kind of like cute, but also quite dark in like in that sort of in the way that only something like Watership Down can really fuck with people. Coming to Game Pass next year. Again, like a lot of I will say towards the end of this, like there was not a lot that was like, hey, this year 2024. Like there was very few and far between. A lot of it was like 2025, and not even like quarter 2025 or month 2025 or season. It was like, no, just 2025 sometime.
Yeah.
Which is, on the one hand, I get it, but on the other hand, it's kind of disappointing to see so much shit that we just don't even know. We're seeing very little of, and we also are not getting any idea of when it's coming out.
I mean, we went through a phase where games weren't even they were being announced and then just started getting cut away and
Yeah,
were no longer showing up.
yeah.
Um, I think we're past that. These games all definitely have feet and will get released. They've kind of made a little bit more sense with their decisions lately, I think, a lot of these companies. So, but yeah, so
Um, Mixtape was the one that I'm super excited for.
hmm
From the team behind Artful Escape, Beethoven
Yep.
and Dinosaur, which is a great name for a studio.
hmm
Uh,
hmm
Basically, like it's a like feel good like period piece of like, hey, how music made you feel back in like the 80s and shit.
Yep.
Well, 80s and 90s, I guess, and driving around with in a convertible and just having a good time and kind of weird shit. And like again, in the same way that like Artful Escape was like, hey, what if you got like a cool fucking guitar and just went on like a psychedelic cool adventure?
Hmm.
Um, yeah, yeah, so yeah, yeah. Kirby says they know my target demographic exactly. Yeah, like they know that
Yeah.
like I'm the kind of person
Yeah.
who is nostalgic enough for the old days to be like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm about that. That
Yeah.
sounds great.
Yeah. And they actually stuck to their art style. Like this was the second one, like including obviously the one that we were talking about
Southern Midnight, yeah,
before, South of the Midnight, that actually did the same kind of paper, like what did I do? Flipbook kind of
yeah, like that, yeah,
art
that kind
style.
of, yeah,
So,
that kind of almost like stop motion claymation kind of thing where it's like
yeah,
very like
yeah,
very artistic.
yeah, yeah,
Looks great.
yeah. So,
I
and that's in game and in cutscenes, like they did the same. It was consistent. So,
what the game is, I have no idea, but also like
mhm.
Artful Escape was basically like a walking. It was like a walking simulator with some minor interactivity and some choices.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, exactly. Yeah, how difficult is the one hit combat going to be that they sneak in there? Exactly. Yeah, you're gonna have to do a no death run for one of the achievements, I'm sure. Um,
Mm.
Life is Strange. This was the one I'm probably the most excited for because first of all, it's coming out this year,
Yep.
and I fucking love Life is Strange. Like Deck Nine do some amazing work. So looks like we're back with Max, which is a surprise because we haven't really had a repeated character, a main character.
I didn't actually like clue in that that was Max at all
Hmm.
until they said the name because I wasn't expecting Max to come back.
Yeah,
Like,
agreed.
mm. So,
Yeah, really, really great surprise. I didn't even know they were working on another Life is Strange.
mhm.
But all about it. This is a day one for me. It looks like it's an interesting idea of
Yeah.
instead of the sort of regular time mechanics, Max's ability is now basically to move between two alternate universes, parallel
Yep.
dimensions, and then where basically it looks like you kind of like a murder mystery solving thing where
Mhm.
Max's friend has been killed in one universe, and so she goes to the other to try and figure out clues and also help her alternate self solve the murder. Um,
Yeah.
it, I mean, it looks great. Again, like we didn't see gameplay, quote unquote, that much, right? It was more
Mhm.
just like story beats and kind of, yeah. But, um, yeah, yeah, exactly. Like the dialogue probably will probably not be as cringe as the original Life is Strange. I think that Deck Nine
Mhm.
kind of learnt
Mhm.
with True Colors, kind of like aging up the characters
Mhm.
and kind of doing a story about like young adults as opposed to teenagers is actually a bit more relatable to their audience and kind of gives them a bit more flexibility with the
Yeah.
stories they can tell.
And I love True Colors. I thought that was
Mm,
great. So the kind of the decisions at the end with tying up the story kind of was the maybe the worst part.
sure.
But yeah, but the like the experience of those characters
Mm,
and living with them was really good. So
yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I'm sorry. And it's Deck Nine working on it instead of
Yeah.
who's the original team? I can't remember. That's really bad of me. But yeah,
It is bad. I completely blanked on it too. I can't even remember now either. Yeah,
it's a shame
that's
because I did
terrible.
just play the
Hmm.
remasters a little while ago. But um,
Yes.
there's another. They're doing new flight simulator 2024. Looks fine.
Yep.
I'm not.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, they don't
Yeah,
really have
looks
much.
fine.
Yeah.
I made a comment in my video. I'm just like, okay, now Sober, because they did work on the Crew
Oh, so but
360
that's
port,
right.
I
Yeah, they did
think,
a lot. They've done
and
a
all
lot
of
of
the
interesting stuff.
they
Yeah.
did a lot of the bat world building and stuff like that. I think a lot of the stuff was generated from the stuff that they did. I'm like, just put the whole Crew 1 game, now that it's dead, into Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, we were joking that it's like now that you can take on jobs, it's going to turn into like a life sim, and it turns out this is the genesis of Ready Player One. Basically, it's like this is the thing.
Yeah, nice. Yeah.
And if you're keeping score at home, that makes 12 out of 16 games that are going to be coming to Game Pass that we've talked about, which is pretty fucking impressive.
Good. Yeah.
Next, we saw Indiana Jones. We saw another trailer. This was very much a like in-engine cinematic trailer, though. Like they didn't show basically any gameplay. It was very much like cinematics and tone. Like it was basically like one long cutscene, but like a really good one. Like I think they got the Indiana Jones tone basically perfect.
Yeah, I think that if it's going to be a bunch of really witty, very well done Indiana Jones quippy cutscenes like what they showed off, and then that's kind of in between the game. Like they might have been trying to go for obviously the Indiana Jones stuff, and maybe the best way for them to pull that off is by doing these cutscenes. But I mean, where's the gameplay? Yeah,
right. Where's the gameplay? I mean, we did see they did release some gameplay a little while ago, right?
Yeah, they did.
But Kirby kind of put out the idea that like maybe they're trying to distance themselves from the Uncharted, Tomb Raider kind of comparisons from third person. Yeah, which I kind of see, but like the whole like Harrison Ford likeness stuff that they're doing, like it feels weird that you're playing first person, but it also is Machine Games. That's what they have experience making.
Totally, and you can do anything with that whip, like absolutely anything. It looks like as if they're using that a whole bunch. That's good, So, and I reckon they've nailed it. I reckon they've probably done a really good job. But showing off Indiana Jones is what they've done so far, like in terms of how well they're getting it. But we nearly need one of those classic walkthrough like play for
exactly like the
10-minute
developer talks to you while they play through
the vertical cut. We need one of those.
It's like, and now we're going to transition to this part of the game. Exactly, for sure. I think I feel like a lot of the stuff that we've talked about would really benefit from a developer like walkthrough of some of the stuff, because a lot of it, like there's so many questions around these games that we just don't know. My biggest problem, no release date. This is a slated to be 2024 game. I don't know if it's going to make it this year, to be honest.
Did they say they said
they said at the beginning of the year that this was going to be their of their like 4 big first party games, because they got this Avowed.
What was
the other
I feel like they still had 2024 at the end of the trailer, but
but they did like when it like 2024, like we only got 6 months left. Like you should probably know when the fuck this game is coming out.
How very Forza Motorsport for you, Microsoft.
Right?
So
like
so it's exactly the same stuff that they're pulling.
I really that, like the rumor was it's going to be a December release. Nothing releases in December. You don't put out a big first party launch on a December, right? Especially if you've got Avowed, which the rumor is coming out in November. If you're putting Avowed out in November, you delay Indiana Jones until February. Like that's just like there's no reason for you to put that game out in December.
Yeah,
at least in my opinion, over the years I've been looking at this kind of stuff. It just does not make any sense to me.
And the common thread I noticed for a lot of these showcase games kind of appear within the September 6th to September 19th window. Like there was quite a few. I kept noticing that pop up. It's not a lot, like not everything, but there's definitely a lot. That's a key point at the moment, I think. So, but games are still, like, I'm pretty sure we had stuff released last year in December, and they turned out to be pretty big.
I mean, I'm trying to think of actually what did come out in December last year.
I'm trying to think as well.
The only one that I can think of is
it wasn't. Was it Lies of P that actually came out in December?
No, that came out much earlier. It was like September.
Much earlier?
It was Baldur's Gate 3 came to Xbox in December.
There you go.
But that was only because it didn't come out with everyone else because of the Series S stuff. It was delayed into December as opposed to because it was supposed to come out like August or whatever. I'm really worried about, and again, I think we'll talk maybe about some other stuff around like our predictions around how some of this ties in potentially. But but I'm excited for the game. Looks good. I'm sure it'll be great. I'm just a little bit apprehensive about when it's actually going to hit. Next, we saw Wu Chang Fallen Feathers. Didn't see a huge amount of this. Looks like another one of those kind of action RPG kind of.
Yeah, there's a couple of games like that
Yes, yeah.
now.
Is it
So
like,
I
oh, is this
think
Wukong? I'm like, no, Wukong's a different one. That's the one with the monkey. That's one with Son Goku and
is it was it Black something Wukong or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, but I actually didn't mind this at all. I think with this one that the colors were pretty bland.
It looked quite. I mean, I'm not gonna say generic. Like, I think it looked like pretty. Like it was like visually quite a good looking game, but it was very, very
It
muted.
well, yeah, I was gonna say monotone, kind of
Yeah,
like very they like all. There was lots of color, but it was dulled down, and I think that kind of fits the style,
yeah.
and actually adds a bit of depth to the world. Because I mean, you could go like I'm gonna use Silent Hill 2 as a perfect example, going
Mm.
from the original game to the 360 port, where basically there's a hard edge on like
The
the
mist
fog,
and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
and then you go to games like The Division 2, where they did their next well, not next gen update, but they kind of rebuilt the game a little bit to run better on series consoles,
Mm.
where they added more atmosphere and visual depth. Like you get all of the filtering stuff that looks like there's fog in the air and all that kind of stuff. Where we've come a long way from uh like having like the fog was obviously a limitation on the PS1 for the Silent Hill games, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, Silent Hill 2 was PS2,
PS2,
but
but yeah, I get what you're saying.
anyway, so there was some limitations. It was supposed to hide things in the environment so it could generate the stuff that's coming up a lot better, so it was really just the immediate space around you that was actually really being shown off properly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they go and redo that for the Xbox 360 and PS3, and then it destroys the atmosphere.
Yeah, and part of that was because they didn't have the original
Mm.
source code. But yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So going back to this seems like it's part of the atmosphere, but it's not, there's no depth to it.
mm,
Like that's why we want the pretty colors and all that kind of stuff, because we can see the difference between the background and the
sure.
foreground. And
I don't know. I mean, I don't want to write it off,
yeah,
because I think
no, no,
that
no, no. I think it actually looks really good.
yeah,
I actually really like it. So,
uh,
but that's the one thing I noticed, I think, from it. So,
yeah. Apparently
mm,
pre-alpha, Kirby's saying.
mm, mm,
I think yeah, like very like it looks like Souls inspired, but I don't want to be like.
mm.
If you look at this, you're like, okay, is this a Souls game? Is this a Sekiro style, like more parry stuff, or is it more along of like a Neo, which is kind of a sort of in
Yeah,
between? Um,
yeah. I actually thought it was what's that one, that online one that came to Xbox, Naraka?
oh,
I
Naraka Blade
actually
Point,
thought
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
actually thought it was Naraka.
It did
I'm
like
like, are
it.
they
Yeah,
doing more story or something?
we've seen like a
Or
lot of that kind of
mm,
style of yeah, like definitely like sort of like
mm,
setting for sure. That's why I
mm,
was like, is this going to be a Neo spin-off or something? But no, it's its own thing. 505 are publishing it. Yeah, they're
yeah.
kind of touting it as an action RPG. So I'm wondering
Mm,
how much stamina meetings and all that kind of stuff. Like how Souls-like is it? I guess is the question. Um,
yeah.
but coming out next year, coming to Game Pass.
Hmm.
Great, cool. I'll give
Yeah.
it a look. Kirby mentioned we skipped Mecha Break. Yeah, there's not really probably much to say there. It looked
It
cool.
I had a feeling that we skipped that because I'm like, oh, did we talk about it? I mean, it's just this Gundam looking thing. I thought it might have been Gundam, I
Yeah,
think. But
Gundam style is made by one of the
yeah,
guys who did some of the art stuff, I think. Yeah,
Gangnam Style? No?
Yes, yes. Okay, all right, fine. Oh, I know the episode title is for this one.
No.
Um, PvP only. Yeah, that was the thing where I was looking at it. I was like, oh, is this
Mm,
going to be like a Armored Core, or are we looking at like just arena shooter? Yeah, look, it's going to be like Air Mech
mm,
Arena style,
yeah,
like, which is like, okay,
yeah,
I'm kind of out, to be honest. That's not really what I'm there for.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And we also didn't see a huge amount of the game, but I don't know how much there is to show. Like I
Mm,
think it's really cool. Like like I love mechs and that kind of shit. Like Armored Core is fucking amazing. I've got fucking Mercenaries downloaded to play and stuff. They're
nice.
doing a beta in August. Yeah, exactly. So like you can give it a go.
Hmm, hmm.
We saw some more Avowed. We didn't see much. This was also one where we didn't get a release date, but they're still supposed to be releasing this year. Again, another one of slightly concerning. There was a leak where there was a blog post that went up that had a release date for November on it, but it got taken down pretty quickly, so we don't know if that's an error or what.
Yeah.
I'm going to play this probably pretty quickly after release. This is my kind of game. Fantasy, first person. Like, I enjoy. I've been itching for a Skyrim style game, and I like just about anything Obsidian's ever put out. So, sure.
Yeah, totally. The spells kind of reminded me of the Ghostwire Tokyo stuff, but a lot more fluid.
Yeah.
So it was really nice if they can kind of pair like spells up and all that kind of stuff, and you can kind of
the dual hand.
It looked really good. Yeah, exactly. So
the combat doesn't look amazing, but I'm also like first person combat is always kind of maybe a bit iffy.
Well, I mean, the only combat we saw were the lizards the first time the trailers for combat really rolled around. We just saw a bunch of lizards jumping around, and they didn't look great at all.
Yeah.
So
apparently, it's going to have a third-person mode as well. I think. Which I guess makes sense. Like Skyrim has that too. This one really surprised me. Atomfall.
All right, I'm going to pull this up so I remember what this.
So this is the Sniper Elite team, so Rebellion, and they were like showing this off, and we were all like, "Oh, are they doing another zombie army, or are they doing another Sniper Elite?" Like it feels like a bit too soon for a Sniper Elite 6. And then they were like, "Yeah, there's going to be like sniper shit, but also like nuclear shit and weird robots and kind of fucking all kinds of crazy shit going on." I was like, "Oh, cool! I'm super on board."
Yeah, so I was trying to remember what Rebellion actually did last, and you're right, it is sort of the zombie stuff, isn't it? So
yeah, Sniper Elite and Strange Brigade is probably maybe the closest one to this.
Yes, right, of course, yeah. So I mean, yeah, it looks really good. I was interested in kind of the darker themes that were kind of popping up. It does look very Fallout.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of. They're definitely leading into like the weird kind of radiation mutant alien robot thing.
Yeah.
He apparently has survival elements, which is kind of not what I was expecting. So,
okay. Yep.
That was another one for next year. Game Pass. Don't know if it'll be my kind of thing, but I've enjoyed. Like I enjoyed the Sniper Elite series. I've enjoyed some of the zombie stuff. I played Strange Brigade, you know. Yeah. So like I'm not immediately like, survival, I'm out, but survival is one of those words that I'm like, I don't know, I deal enough with my everyday survival as opposed to having to play it in a video game, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm a lot more keen on survival stuff these days, willing to give things a go because of Subnautica, really. So just kind of that kind of brought me into the survival-y kind of games. So yeah, I'd be willing to give it a go. So
yeah, okay, cool. We'll keep an eye on that one. We got a trailer with for Assassin's Creed Shadows, which is kind of the first kind of look we saw at this for a while. It's got some.
Yep.
Yeah. Kind of weird that it was here, I guess.
I didn't even realize it was Shadows because I never watched the trailer for Shadows at all. So it wasn't until our samurai character showed up that people are just like, oh, he's not really a samurai. He doesn't exist in the and people are like, well, So it's just like, yeah. Until he showed up on the screen, I'm just like, oh, I don't know what this game is, but it looks pretty good. And I'm like, oh, it's Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
It does look like every other Assassin's Creed though. I've started dabbling again in Assassin's Creed, by the way. So it's not on my games played, even though I did jump in and do a couple of things. So
I mean, yeah. I'm curious. I'm curious if it's going to lean more towards Mirage or more towards Valhalla in terms of like size and scope and story and all that kind of stuff. The dual protagonist thing I think is cool. I think that I like that idea of having like different protagonists with different play styles. They've kind of tried that before, but it looks like they're doing a bit more extreme version of that now.
Yeah, I'm super keen for this Shinobi kind of.
Yeah, me too. Like that's what I'm there for. Like I'm there to be a sneaky bastard.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's closer to Mirage because I don't really feel like we need a 200-hour epic with this doing the same kind of things over and over and over again. I think having a more condensed, tightly told story will do better for them, but who the fuck do I know? Valhalla sold super well, so.
Yeah.
Got a new trailer for Stalker 2. Really not much to say there. I'm gonna play it. I'm really excited. It looks like this is really just like they've taken what they've done in the previous Stalker games and just turned it up to 11. This game's also been delayed a shitload, so it's good to see that's coming out. There's
Yeah.
another one coming out
Yeah.
this year, September 5th, 2024.
Yep. Specifically said made in Ukraine at the start of the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
Looks really good. Like, they're really kind of selling themselves a lot on this game
Yeah.
at the moment. So
And a really good get for Game Pass as well.
it is. Yeah. Looks good. Looks good. I'm definitely going to check it out. I never played any of the original games at all, so which I know I can now on Xbox. So
Could be saying it's rated G for general. G, yeah, okay, all right. They also this is the this will be something I want to talk about later at the end of this. But we saw the only bit of hardware news this entire conference, and that's they've released they're releasing the new digital Series X.
yes,
Which is it's white, 1 terabyte SSD, no hard drive. Sorry, it's no disk drive rather. And they're also releasing a 2 terabyte Galaxy Black. And then 1 terabyte Series S. I don't know. They just were like, hey, we're doing some other versions of it. They didn't really have we don't really have local pricing for here yet, but it's probably going to be about $900 to $1,000 for the new Series X versions.
Yeah.
I don't know. Are you interested at all?
I'm wondering if the Galaxy Black replaces the standard Black, as a mid-gen refresh.
Maybe. I don't know. Considering it's a 2 terabyte model as opposed to a 1.
Yeah, I guess it's more like the Scorpion then in that regard. Where they just tried to distinguish it against the other console.
Yeah, I think maybe that's it. They just have a slightly different visual treatment, so you can look at it on a shelf and go, "Oh, that's the 2 terabyte one that I saw. That's the one I want."
Yeah, exactly. I don't care one way or the other. If I ended up with if my console shat itself, I might go digital. I do have a handful of Series X discs, but I mean, outside of that, I'd be more than happy to replace them with digital at this point. So it wouldn't matter a whole lot. So
yeah, I'm kind of with you. I don't really have a lot of discs. I've been churning through them as I can.
Well, in that regard, I've been dabbling a little bit in the streaming console to mobile a little bit more as well. So I managed to pick up a little device that's just a power wave controller that basically acts like anything else. It was only $60, and that's working really, really well these days. And I was playing everything in the cloud until I remembered that it's not the Game Pass app you go into, it's the main one. And then it took me forever to find the actual stream to console button. I found that today.
Oh, yeah.
And then started realizing that I could actually play the games on my consoles again. Because I thought that had just disappeared. This is the old Xbox
sometimes you have
app.
to reactivate it. It sometimes just turns itself off.
Yeah,
which is so
you had to
fucking
go
annoying.
into settings and then go allow, and then it pairs to the console. And but when I found that plays super well, I would be more than happy playing. I'm going to be playing a lot more stuff on my mobile phone now, because I kind of do it on the sofa with my wife, all that kind of stuff. So I could deal with the cloud and the digital stuff with Xbox.
Yeah.
So
it's interesting to me though that the all digital version there isn't a 2 terabyte version of it.
That is the worst decision,
right?
They could have made.
I don't know.
Really.
I kind of mentioned this in the chat there, but it seems like a weird time to be releasing this out at the moment. They can't sell enough Series X's or Xboxes. They're losing to PlayStation 4-1, 5-1 in some territories.
Yeah.
Is now really the time to start spinning up new SKUs?
And I've been keeping an eye out on the Call of Duty stuff, and I've been looking for a end cloud.
Yeah, right.
Button on the new Call of Duty. I have to actually go through and maybe see if it's on the Xbox thing. But all of these new games going into Game Pass and stuff really should be releasing with cloud features. You're going to have one for a lot of your first party stuff. And Call of Duty is the biggest fucking thing on the console. Why the hell would you not want that running from cloud where people can just play it wherever they want? It basically replaces Call of Duty Mobile at that point.
It'll be on Game Pass though, right? So I guess the thing is that Game Pass Ultimate, which includes cloud. So I'm assuming it will.
Exactly, right. So So a reason to not have to install the Call of Duty games to actually play them. Amazing. I want my 200 gig back or whatever,
I'm very
so
curious about the online latency for that, though. I
mm,
wonder if that's what they're not leading on. Because can you imagine,
yeah.
like, hey, fucking 100 million people bought, well, 100 million people got on Game Pass to play Call of
Mm,
Duty. None of them installed it. They're all playing off our Azure servers across the world.
mm.
I'm sure that might be a scenario they're trying to avoid because they don't want to give people a bad experience. But I get what you mean, though. They
Totally.
really didn't
Yeah.
talk a lot about cloud accessibility or anything. Like, this was a very
Hmm.
game heavy, not Xbox strategy. And actually, I want to come back to that when we get to the end of this. But yeah, it was interesting.
Mm.
And then I guess they saved the best till last, quote unquote, with Gears of War E Day as a sort of surprise
Yes.
announcement. No, I don't think anyone saw this coming.
Mm.
But it's not Gears 6. They're going back to the very beginnings of Gears of War with Emergence Day, where the Locust came out of the ground, basically. The thing you kind of see at the trailer at the beginning of the first game.
Yep. And I think it was Jez Corden that said is it Jez on Twitter said they're coming at it with both ends. I think was the quote. I
Hmm.
think it was Jez. Yeah, yeah. It's like Gears is 6 is still coming. They're just doing this as well.
Yeah.
So
Well, it sounds
yeah.
like, I mean, like Gears 5, story wise, didn't get a great reception. A lot of people were like kind of not thrilled by those characters. And it feels like going back to Marcus and Dom and doing a prequel story is kind of a nice reset. It's also not, someone also pointed out this it's called Gears of War E Day. It's not Gears like Gears 4 and Gears 5 were.
Maybe it should be G'day.
Oh my god, no. Okay, well that actually there's another alternate title for the episode.
There you
Um,
go. Yeah.
yeah, but people were very excited to see young Marcus and Dom and that sort of stuff, and the sort of what happens before he gets arrested and locked up, and the events of Gears 1 happen. So yeah, I mean, again,
Yes.
we didn't see much about it. We don't have any idea when it's coming out. It's very, very early in development, obviously.
Yeah.
But cool reveal. Nice to hear it's coming. Definitely keen to
Yeah.
keep an eye out for it. Hopefully, it doesn't have ridiculous achievements when we get there.
We did um get if anyone's ever gone down the road of reading the Gears of War books,
Oh yeah.
there's a lot of stuff in that happens before the games.
Mm.
So very interesting. I'd like to see how much of that comes through because there were missions that they were going on and all that kind of stuff, like leading up to all of this, and
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
like
Also, they
like
had
Black
the
Ops style. Yeah.
exactly
So
like Black Ops Style is a great touch
yeah,
point for that. It's
yeah,
Also they had a sad piano version of Mad World playing in the background, obviously, because they were like, hey, everyone loved that song.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
keen for that.
It was definitely like hitting the keynotes, bringing that back
For
to
sure.
Mad
And
World.
then they
So
kind
yeah.
of rolled straight into doing a big deep dive into Black Ops 6, which
Mm,
even on the stream, to be honest, we just kind of tuned out. We were kind of like, not really that. Like, it looked fine, but like,
hmm
I don't know.
mm,
We're not big
mm.
Call of Duty guys here, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I covered that as well in my video, so you can go and watch that if you want a couple of extra
Yeah,
comments. Not many comments, but there were comments.
yeah,
So
definitely worth checking that out. Yeah,
yeah.
if you want to go see the streams themselves, check out Kia's video. Highly recommend it. All right, so we've kind of gone through it. What are your thoughts about like the showcase in general and like how it was structured and all that kind of stuff? I mean, we kind of talked about like how we rated it and whether it was good or
hmm
bad, but were you surprised at how good it was? Was there anything in there you're like, oh, I wish I kind of saw this? Or
Uh, I think, I mean, it's hard to not tread the same thing I was saying at the start, really. It was kind of just, it was game heavy, as you said,
mm,
and that was what they needed. I think they needed to lean in. What I did think that they needed to do was I thought that they needed to solidify, and I know it would have pissed off a lot of Xbox gamers, that they needed to lean into the fact that they wanted to do some multi-platform stuff.
yes, totally agree. Like I think one of my prediction was like how
Hmm.
many of these games are we going to see coming to
Yep.
Xbox and other platforms?
All you needed to see was the splash screen at the end of the trailers going other platforms.
Xbox,
And I was
PC,
wondering,
other platforms.
mm,
Yeah.
because there were a few things where the trailers would say Series XS, But then there would be some trailers that would just have Xbox.
Mm.
And I'm like, is Xbox the generic like symbol basically they're going to go with that means that it's not only coming to Xbox, it's actually coming to everything else as well? Or does that mean that it's only Xbox
We just don't know.
or
Like
what?
they didn't use the word
So,
exclusive a lot in this, right? They
mm,
they were very
mm,
very careful around like, hey, this is coming to Xbox. And you're like, okay, but is it coming? Like, okay, how much of this stuff do you think is coming to other consoles? Whether it's going to be like Switch or PlayStation?
not Gears of War.
No, okay, not Gears of War. Fair, okay.
Yep. I think Indiana Jones has good potential.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what else? What else exclusively did they show? I mean, everything else except for. I mean, I can't even think of this stuff at the first trailer. Doom definitely. Doom needs to be everywhere.
Yeah, well, actually, I think they did confirm that
Yes.
Doom is
Yeah.
coming to
Yeah.
PlayStation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So Doom is the one thing that I mean, so many people have grown up with. There's been so many generations of it.
mm-hmm.
Even the 360 and even, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, where it was really heavily like treated on PC and stuff like that. That needs to be absolutely everywhere.
Yeah.
So
Kirby
yeah,
points out like Bethesda stuff is most likely to be cross-platform because it has been
cross-platform.
in the past. It's not super surprising.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
do we see like do you guys do we see hey Fable's coming to PlayStation?
That I don't think so. I
No.
didn't see. I didn't think there was a as much as we have as like earlier Xbox 360 and Xbox fans have our own rose-tinted glasses on the Fable
Sure.
series. It's clunky as shit, and if you put those old games on the any other platform, they wouldn't survive at all.
Sure. Yeah, sure. But
I like Fable is the one thing that I don't think the older games should port to other platforms.
yeah, but I think but like I'm talking about the new
Mm.
Fable, right?
Yeah.
And I think
So
it's a reboot,
mm,
you
if
know.
they're rebooting it, and they leaned in day one on new platforms, I think yes, 100% it should go to the other platforms. If they're just going to make it Xbox exclusive straight off the bat, I don't think it will make it. Still don't think it'll make the transition.
Yeah, okay. I can
So,
see yeah, like I'm very curious to see like what the
mm,
thinking is there because yeah,
mhm.
Kirby doesn't think it's going to happen. I don't know, I'm more open to the idea.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, it's kind of tough with that though. So,
It
I
it,
mean,
it is hard to tell.
yeah, yeah. If they're doing console versions of stuff like Age of Mythology, for example,
Yes,
if
which
they,
is
I
coming to
mean,
Xbox, yep.
they should totally release that on other platforms as well.
Yeah.
So, because the legs of those, like they're born and raised on PC, and that's where most of their market is. They're going to release something like that. That should be on every platform.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. And I
Mm.
think anything that has a large multiplayer component definitely has a
Yeah.
bigger use case of being on other consoles.
And Perfect Dark should be exclusive to Xbox and Switch.
Oh,
Bring
wow.
it back to Nintendo. Let them do their cloud-based stuff that they've been doing with other games. Because Nintendo have some really weird cloud stuff
They
going on.
do,
I
yeah.
don't know if you know about that at all, but
Like
like
Kingdom
it's just
Hearts,
like
for
this
example, is all cloud
the
stuff,
stuff
yeah.
that is running through the cloud. Yeah, totally work with Microsoft and get Perfect Dark back on Nintendo. So,
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they have Phil
mm,
Spencer has come out and said they want to do more games. We heard about this whole Latitude thing coming out that we kind of talked about last week around like
yeah.
rumored games, like Age of Empires being one of them.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's the thing that they want to have, what they're going to put on our other platforms.
yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I think so. That was my first question. My other question is, you're right, it was game heavy, and I think that was smart for them to have
Hmm.
game heavy. But like the fact that we saw very little of like we didn't get a lot of clarity around release dates. Was a lot stuff coming this year. It's looking kind of light. We saw a few things. I don't want to say like
Yeah.
nothing, right? Like I'm excited for Life is Strange and a few other bits and pieces, and
Hmm.
like Stalker, but we also like didn't get any hardware news, and like there was huge rumors about this whole handheld thing, right?
Yeah.
And we heard nothing. We didn't hear about like we
Hmm.
basically didn't hear about next generation consoles at all. We didn't hear anything about cloud gaming. We didn't
Hmm.
hear about any kind of like new things for Game Pass or any changes there. And we didn't hear about any handheld stuff. It was and we also didn't hear about like a lot of like brand direction for where Microsoft is going with Xbox. And that's kind of what I was like, that's what I felt like was missing. I was like, hey, like you guys have just come off big changes or big announcements of changes. This is your time to show those things or talk more about them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like Kirby pointed out, like it is like it was like almost an hour and a half long of this block before we even got to the Call of Duty stuff. So they did go through a lot and spend a lot of time on a lot of these games. So maybe it's just they didn't have enough time, and they did kind of come out later and say that they had more stuff they could have shown. But I don't know. It just kind of felt like, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts?
That's kind of why I touched before on how I was happy that they were looking good and confident in the direction. Like we didn't get anything but a vibe from them.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, they always, I think, probably either say a little bit too much or not enough. I think, and we've kind of gotten, a whole bunch of directions. Like, and nobody really knows where they're going with it. And we finally get a direction. They're going multi-platform, and they don't lean into it.
Yeah, they just don't. They just basically, there's no mention of it outside of one game.
Yeah. So I don't think they're ready to pull the trigger on the rest of the games yet.
Yeah.
So I don't think we'll get any more news about that maybe for the rest of the year. So we might get one or two games that flow onto other platforms, just maybe if they announce it along the way. I can't think of what any of those games would be.
Yeah, I think that realistically anything that would be coming to next gen consoles, so to other would be 2025 releases, right? I think
exactly. Yeah, so what Doom, when is that? That's 2025.
Yeah.
Doom's going to be the next thing, and I reckon it should be on all platforms.
Yeah.
And that's basically that. Yeah, that would be the next thing that they should just go, right, we're leading with Doom as the spearhead for our multi-platform thing. It's coming to everything. Bethesda games always do so. Bethesda was always going to be, I think, their way into other platforms.
Sure, back into other platforms, right? Because again,
yes. Yeah, exactly. So, and there's a whole bunch of stuff about them having dev kits and all this kind of stuff. So Sony know what they're doing, all that kind of stuff, So, but it might, besides the one or two games that trickle through onto other platforms, it's going to be a while, I think, before they really try to touch on it again. So,
Kirby also points out that 10 out of the 24 were new titles, 6 of them were DLC. Yeah, I think like games wise, I think as a showcase was really, really good. I was really happy with like, hey, cool, I want to play that.
Yeah,
shitload of it's coming to Game Pass. I want to play that. I want to play that. I want to play that. Looking forward to that. Wish we had more firm release dates so I could get an idea of when the fuck this stuff is coming out.
Yeah,
but that was my only real complaint from a games perspective. My real problem was essentially like, hey, what's going on with this handheld? Because Phil Spencer came out today and still started teasing it again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was even a mention. He was saying the Xbox should have a handheld. I was like, yeah, no shit. You're the fucking boss. What the fuck's going on? Yeah, I don't know.
We didn't get anything from Sega this time, did we?
That was another point that we brought up on the stream. Not a lot of like Eastern representation at all. I think some of our predictions that we made last week were like, oh, hey, maybe we'll see some Final Fantasy stuff. Nothing.
Yeah.
No Dragon Quest, no Final Fantasy. No...
yes, of course. Yeah. Yeah, because I want the 1 to 6 remasters to come to Xbox.
Exactly. Yeah, we didn't see anything, and we didn't see any like Final Fantasy 7. And there was all those rumors around like, oh well, Phil's doing all this work in Asia to try and get those games across. But we only got one game, Wu Chang, basically, which is 505 published, which is again like okay.
Yeah, which PlayStation their showcase like a week or so before leaned really heavily into the Eastern stuff. Actually, so it super went down that road. A lot of its stuff actually was more Eastern representative. So
I think that nicely rolls us into maybe some of the stuff we were like thought we were going to hear about that we didn't.
I had a feeling there'd be some Persona news of some kind.
Yeah, well, we did see at Summer Games Fest they did show off some more of the new Persona Teams game.
Okay.
So that is they did show some of that there at least, but we didn't see no Persona 6, which has been rumored for a long time. A lot of we didn't see anything for Outer Wilds 2.
Yeah.
Which is like again, like I know Obsidian are obviously focusing on are fixing on Avowed for this year, but
Mm.
it's been quite a while since they shot off that like cinematic trailer thing.
Yeah, and still no Rare with
Yeah, no,
their
no, Everwild,
Everwild.
exactly. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is fucking vaporware at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
was it Cameron who brought up Contraband? I think.
Oh, somebody
Someone
did.
brought up
Yeah.
Contraband, and we were like, "What the fuck is that?" Like that we haven't seen anything about that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, back when I thought they were going to buy that company, I think from Square Enix or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They were doing a partnership or something, and then they moved on to, are they with Embracer now?
Yes, I believe because it's Avalanche. Yeah, so I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Contraband
Mm.
Police. That's sorry. Yes, you're right, Kirby. It was you who talked about Contraband because of Contraband
Ah.
Police, though. Yes, exactly. There is that.
Mm.
Arc 2, we didn't see anything about. No more Vin Diesel. Not sure what's happening there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and also the Clockwork game
I was wondering about that
from
too.
In
Yeah.
Exile. Yeah, that's the one I was like, you got to show that. Where the fuck is that? Like that was the
Mm.
thing they closed the show out with last
Mm.
time. Yeah, no Clockwork. I was just like, man, that's probably the game I'm most excited for from the Xbox
I
library.
was waiting for that actually. Yeah, definitely. Mm. Mm.
Also, but maybe a bit of a weird one, but no mention of Halo whatsoever.
Ah,
We
yes.
didn't get
No
it.
Halo. It
No
was
new
completely
seasons.
Halo
No
free.
even like sizzle
Hmm.
reel or anything. They just pretended Halo didn't exist.
Yeah. And honestly, not a bad thing,
Infinite is
but
not in a great state. That 343 is kind of dwindling quite
uh,
badly. I don't know.
their last well, I don't know if it was the last season or the season before that. Oh, are they what, 4 or 5 now? I'm not quite sure, but there was one of those seasons were really, really good and people were kind of jumping back on board.
Yeah.
So they were doing some really good stuff, but I don't know how it's gone since then or if it's stagnant
Well, I
or
think
what.
what I've heard is basically done. Like they're kind of done with development on that
Mm,
game, and that's pretty much it. And they're kind of looking to move on to something
yeah.
new. And I guess maybe that's just because it's in way early production, but just
Yep.
interesting that we didn't see anything from the flagship franchise, especially with the rumors around like a Halo uh, One remake coming to
Ah.
potentially coming to
Oh,
PlayStation as well, like a console
right.
agnostic remake.
Yeah,
No news of that.
I was going to say that I think the next Halo news we're going to get is PlayStation, not I guess adjacent or involving or something along those lines.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think it's going to definitely be, oh, Halo's coming to PlayStation in some description.
Hmm.
And if it's going to be a new game that's remade that will be platform agnostic, that's not terrible,
No,
but
I'm fine with that.
it's got to be done right. So,
Yeah.
who's going to do it? And, so I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's pretty much it for those conferences. I will just quickly run through the Ubisoft stuff that they did. There wasn't much there.
Hmm.
They showed some more Star Wars Outlaws. Looks really good. I'm super on board for that. I'm a big Star Wars fan. Looks, it's the Division team, so you kind of know what you're getting into from a gameplay perspective. But it looks like fun.
Yep.
X Defiance they're starting their first proper season. Skull and Bones is
Yep.
getting a new
Yep.
season. They teased Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake, but that's 2026 now, which is crazy.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah, I saw the jokes about that. So,
it's just that game. Yeah, that game is fucking yeah.
yeah.
There's going to be a new expansion for the Avatar game. They've got some new stuff for the Prince of Persia side scroller. They're adding a new area, a new island to Crew Motorfest.
Oh, really? Ah, okay.
Yep. So they got like a whole new island that
Interesting.
they're doing that for that. They
Hmm.
showed off another Addo game, 117, set in Rome, and then they showed some more Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
Kirby also points out, yeah, no news on Hideo Kojima's OD game that he's apparently working on that we kind of got leaked, right?
Hmm.
His Xbox exclusive deal that he was working on. We haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, the closest thing we got was the Konami Metal Gear Solid 3 thing. I think was Ko oh, did they have Kojima in like any? No, they wouldn't have.
Nah,
They would have no.
nah, not at all.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
weird. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but you watched a few of the other showcases. Was there anything there you wanted to highlight?
Well, unfortunately, like there were definitely things that came through. I watched let's have a look here. I watched the accessibility showcase with Laura Kate Dale. That was really good. There's a lot of everyone's getting really, really good at doing accessibility features, and incorporating a lot more. So it looks like it's getting easier and easier just to kind of get some of those things going, which is great for people that can't play in any manner or form, like because accessibility is for everybody.
Yep.
There's probably going to be something that you're going to need, and if we can get some new features, that would be great. Um, I watched the Wholesome Showcase and the Women-led Games Showcase. The Wholesome one had a lot of really good stuff. It was over 70 games that they showed off
That's a
in
lot.
that
That's
one,
an
actually.
insane amount.
Yes, but most of it's, on Steam,
Sure.
actually.
Yeah, not
So
Xbox. Yeah, right.
there was a really, really cool one that I liked. It was basically Picross,
Hmm.
and it was this was Steam only, unfortunately. It was uh you're basically like a house builder of some description. I didn't know have all
Okay.
the details on it, but you create the items solving puzzles pic on a Picross style board where you have like a grid. It's like vertical and horizontal grid, and you had to kind of work out the different pieces to it, and then that would turn into 3D furniture, and then you
Oh,
could
okay. Yeah,
place it
yeah, yeah.
around the room and stuff like that. So that was
Okay,
that
that's
was
kind of cute.
it was, yeah. So I'm just having a look through the Wholesome Direct. Where I mean, there's this stuff like, is it the frog game that we just got? Is it Kamaru or something that just came onto Game Pass? So that kind of got a bit of a show off.
Hmm.
Um, oh yeah, yeah, it is Kamaru. Um, so that's good that some of the games that are just showing up are still getting highlighted. Um, but yeah, so I couldn't really point out anything in particular that would really um it's just coming to console. It's probably coming to Switch,
Sure. Right.
like
Yeah,
for
of
most of
course.
these
Which
things.
makes sense.
So but yeah, so and then I watched the women led game showcase as well, which had a couple of really nice ones. Some crossover with the wholesome game stuff because they were kind of working together with those. Um, but there was one called Awkward 2, which is coming to basically every platform, which is basically another one of those things where you use your phones,
Oh, yeah,
you
like the
kind of
original.
solve
Yeah,
puzzles and
okay,
stuff
yeah.
like that. And yeah, that had a really cool trailer, actually. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so hopefully more of these games actually come to consoles because, like I was saying, I haven't uploaded these videos yet, but uh, I mostly play on console, so I will miss most of these games.
Mm.
And a lot of them look really, really good. And sure, I can, jump on a PC and just play them, but I'm not spending my time there. It'd be nice to get a few of these. There are a few. There's a cool two-person game. Somebody that made it was just two people that made one of the games, and it's actually coming to consoles, so to Xbox. So,
Oh, okay.
you know, so
Great. I mean, like, yeah, like more stuff coming to Xbox is great. I'm hopefully coming to
yeah, exactly.
Game Pass sounds
Yeah,
like the way to go for
yeah.
anything coming to.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that I noticed was that a lot of it was Xbox and Switch and PC for a lot of it. Even in these third-party trailers, I wasn't seeing much PlayStation. There was only one or two that were actually coming to PlayStation.
Right.
So, yeah, all consoles generally. So that was kind of nice to see the indie stuff being kind of geared towards the Xbox ecosystem, I guess.
It's
So,
nice to see that it hasn't been forgotten about,
yeah,
right? Because
yeah,
sometimes it
exactly.
does feel
Yeah.
like the Xbox, considering its position in the market, does get left behind a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. Well, yeah, that's probably about. I mean, it's not much to say on those, but I'll have videos going up for those in the next couple of days, maybe. I'm just going to do some short videos alongside the full uploads, just to kind of bit of contrast and stuff like that. So, but yeah,
Great.
mm,
Well, we've chatted a fair amount, so I think we'll just kind of blaze through
a
the
lot.
rest of the show.
Yeah. Mm,
Game Pass updates. We had Octopath Traveler 1 and 2 join.
mm,
Depersonalization just joined, which looks really interesting. Weird kind of tabletop Cthulhu style inspired weird psychological game on PC.
yep.
We also have tomorrow we have the Callisto Protocol and Isonzo.
I think I've seen that show up in the download list already.
Yeah,
That
it's
Callisto.
13th, so I guess
Yeah.
that's today technically.
Mm,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the 18th, we have Still Wakes the Deep, which I'm very, very excited for. That looks really, really
Yes, I
cool.
wanted to do that as well.
Leaving just in the next couple of days, we have High on Life, Bramble, The Mountain King, Space Lines from the Far Out, Rune Factory 4, and The Bookwalker Thief of Tales. If you're going to
Yep.
pick anything, I would probably say High on Life. Bramble is probably a close second.
Yeah, I was never going to get to High on Life, and I'm struggling for time to actually get through Bramble. I've been playing that a bit as well. So, and it's not long. I don't know how long a story playthrough is, but
Yeah,
yeah,
Bramble's
I
like
can
maybe
only
like
pick
eight
it up
hours or
and
so. And then,
yeah. And then you have to do your other run, and I'm just like, I don't know if I have time for that. So
sure.
maybe,
Yeah, I'm with you. The no death run really is kind of a sticking point, unfortunately, for that game.
yeah,
Because it's very brutal. You die a lot.
yeah.
We've also got our monthly theme, Down Under. We're basically playing games where you either go down or you're already down. Diablo is a great example of stuff that we're playing where we're literally going into hell to fight
Yep,
demons.
I've been playing BioShock 2 Games for Windows Live
Great.
Edition.
Yep.
So,
I've been doing a little bit of Doom Eternal as well.
mhm.
But if you guys got any fun suggestions, go on our Discord and jump on and let us know what you're playing.
Mm.
Speaking of what we've been playing, I literally have one game that I've been playing Diablo 4 a lot. We have been playing a shitload of Diablo 4. I'm still having such a great time about it. I can only gush so much about it. I think we're getting towards the level 100 area there. You know, we're kind of in like the high 80s.
Yeah, and I'm starting to gravitate towards just starting some of the other characters, the types, just to kind of get their abilities and stuff like that. I'll probably have to get to like level 15 for like the Necromancer to unlock. Actually, you probably do it from the
You can do it from
start.
the start. Yeah, you can do.
Yeah. But I couldn't unlock it, so I got to level 15 before that unlocked, and I'm like, do you actually need
It
the
took me a
skeleton
long time to
mages
get it for
or
some reason. I think maybe
yeah,
it's like you
yeah.
need to let your guys die or whatever.
It is. I ended up taking a tip for that, going into where you switch between the different types. And when you switch them,
Yeah, that
it kills
kills
them
them,
off.
brings them back.
And then
Smart.
you just go to some enemies, bring them back, and there's another tenant. That seemed to be the thing that was really killing it.
That's really
So,
smart.
yeah. Hmm.
So the only thing really I've been playing is more Tales of Arise. So I've talked about this a few times. This is kind of also my back-to-back log game because it's something that I played a few hours. I put maybe like 10 hours into and then kind of put down. I'm now like 35 hours into it and I'm sort of getting towards the end of the game, it looks like. Again, the story is, if you played a Tales game, you know what happens. Like, it's like, hey, like the ending is never the ending. Like the thing that you're like,
Yeah.
oh, cool, this is the end of the game. They're like, no, bro, you're only like halfway through. Here's the actual rest of the game. So I'm past that point. I'm kind of getting towards like I think I'm maybe 70, 80% of the way through the game. There's still going to be a fair amount of side stuff to do and like super bosses and the regular JRPG stuff. Really enjoying the story. It's kind of weird and interesting and has a lot of like mystery to it. And it isn't quite as tropey as I was expecting. It actually surprised me and how cool it was. Still not feeling the combat a lot though. I feel like it's a bit too stiff and the enemies don't react enough to your attacks and you kind of feel like you're just kind of smashing against the rock until the rock falls over a lot of the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's not, it just for some reason it's just not grabbing me, but I'm sticking with it with the story. Love the visuals, music's nice, like in the side quest stuff. It's nice to play too. You know, it's kind of it has a lot of like accessibility in terms of like you can put on like auto battling or semi auto battling or completely manual control. You can switch between your characters pretty easily. You can assign all your abilities. You can like do like minor gambit stuff of like setting up builds for your AI characters of like what their behavior needs to be, which is quite helpful. So yeah. I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I'm going to try and get through it. There's also a DLC for it as well, which I think is going to take me a decent while. So I don't know if I'm going to get it done this week, especially because I'm away, but hopefully maybe trying to get it done before the end of the month.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I will go into the stuff I've been playing. So I put down a few things, mostly BioShock 2 in there just because it's the game theme of the month. I was having every time I load this up, it seems like there's some kind of graphical glitch error thing because games will fly, but at the time, like it's not built for the current graphics cards and stuff like that. There was something specific that they did with that build where you had some trouble getting things to work properly. Like there's actually like it might be an NVIDIA verse, whatever
Right. Yeah. Okay.
issue or something like that. But I was up to the point, and this is where I stopped. It was only at the start of the game, just before you get your first weapon. So, BioShock 2 has like a weapon, a door that keeps trying to close, and your weapon's stuck underneath the door, and you have to grab it, and it opens up. There's a couple of splices, and my game crashes,
Ah.
and just shuts it down. And I had to work out exactly what was going on there. So turns out, so the two splices apparently, like I was changing all the graphic settings. It seems like the thing that was really doing it was the character models of the NPC characters, like
Oh, okay.
just the enemies.
They just weren't loading correctly for some reason. It
It
was like breaking the
They
game.
were either too high or not loading correctly, or there was something jank about it. There was one time I managed to get in there, kill them, and walk around the room, and then it did crash again.
Mm.
So I ended up turning off that setting because I tried, I don't know, I tried a bunch of graphic settings and shaders and all that kind of stuff. None of that worked. So, and that was like the last setting on the list.
Mm. Right.
So
Yeah. Okay. So you're like,
by the
well,
time I got to it, so I turned that off, and then I managed to get through that area, and then all my graphics set to low and whatever, and then I turned everything back up perfectly fine. So
mm.
it's just a really, it looks good now, so I can see it, see things that are in the environment, all that kind of stuff. Because when you turn the graphics to low on BioShock 2, it looks like dog shit on PC,
I mean,
like
yeah. Like
yeah,
it's
like you'd
yeah.
expect, right? So so you can't make out what you can kind of do and what you can't do with it. So yeah, so that was my experience with BioShock 2 on PC. Um, I did a session with Death Jester, one of the guys in the Discord, a friend of ours. He's with TMNT Mutants in Manhattan, so I kind of themed to the stuff with the month.
Going underground.
So
Yep. Yep.
this is the Platinum Games
Oh yeah. Okay. Yep.
Ninja
Yep.
Turtles.
It's
Not
quite
hating it,
quite buggy though,
actually.
right? It's got some
So, well, I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but the levels are designed kind of in a randomly generated way.
right.
So objectives, the levels are set, but the objectives are random. So like the last level I went through was sewers, and every time you went down, because you had to go down and down into the lower end of the sewers, every time you went to a different level, the objective would be different than the last time you played it.
Hmm.
So sometimes you'll get the same objectives. So we did a subway level to defeat the session that we did was basically to get the secret boss at the end of the second level. There's an achievement where you had to get Rocksteady and Bebop
Oh
appear at the
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
And
Right.
yeah, so I believe it was Rocksteady's level, and you had to get Bebop to show up, I think.
It's just
Um,
RNG basically at that point,
it's
right?
a huge RT. So it was four people in a session doing hard mode, trying to get S ranks in every section,
Mm.
and then you get to the end, and so on hard you have 9 life bars for the boss. So when it gets down to 4.5 life bars,
Yep.
there's a random chance this guy will either show up or he won't.
Right.
So, and yeah, so and you could imagine RNG secret boss battle. This is the only level that has an achievement for it, and the achievement is to have both of those bosses die by being hit by a train because you've got
Right. So
trains going up either side
yeah.
of
Okay.
you on
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So and one of them doesn't run around at all. So he'll teleport from one area to another area, and then just use his Gatling gun on you or something like that. Yeah, I know Kirby's got good RNG, I've heard.
Yeah.
So yeah. But yeah, and so it was a bit of trouble getting him onto the train tracks, but the other one just does a charge attack, so it was easy.
Gotcha.
So,
Right.
and then I played some of the game and actually not hating the story. It's kind of nice to see some of those older characters come back. Because I know most of the from the old 90s cartoons and stuff like that with the Ninja Turtles stuff
There
is
is an
where
half
I'm
shell.
most
Yeah.
familiar. Yeah, familiar with most of that. So it kind of has that vibe, much like Transformers Devastation, very similar. This actually feels like that Avatar game, not the Avatar one. It was what's the Korra, Legend of
Yeah.
Korra.
Right. Same platinum. Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
very those three games, the Transformers, the Korra, and the Ninja Turtles, all cut from the exact same cloth.
Hmm.
So they just went, we've got three licensed games. We'll go and we'll make these games, and it'll, they were very well done to the themes of the games, but
Yeah, Korra
they
was a
all
bit basic,
were.
but
Yeah, I think Korra was the first one.
mm,
They definitely learned a lot since Korra. It was definitely the worst. That was basically go from A to B through the levels.
yeah.
There were set levels, and you had to RNG once again through the levels to get specific emblems and stuff like that. And you had
Yeah.
to collect everything in the game. And it was terrible experience. I still have one
It
of
had a
those
stack,
versions
so you had to
still.
do it twice.
I still haven't done the Xbox One stack. No, I
Yeah.
haven't. So yeah. Also, I heard from a friend about this game that I had no idea even existed. Um, that recently came out called Morbid, The Lords of Ire. And he said, "Oh, well, there's this old game that came out a few years ago. This is actually the sequel."
Hmm.
So Morbid, I went and picked up because it's in the most recent Xbox sale. Morbid, The Seven Acolytes
Mm.
this is the game that I actually purchased for you like last week. As soon as I played it, I'm just like, this really seems
Yeah, I'm
like a Mac
keen. This
game.
looks really cool.
Hmm. So they went with the first game, an isometric Souls ARPG like game with all of the Souls like tropes. So it's a very pixel art kind of game, and it is really flexible on when you die.
Hmm.
It's not really that big a deal. But all of the different weapon types are there. You can sneak up on enemies and kill them in one-hit attacks or several if you have to. It's got boss battles like the Seven Acolytes. You've got to eventually kill the Seven Acolytes. It doesn't have a lot of enemies.
Right. Okay.
They're very spread out, and
Hmm.
then there might be one or two enemies. This is only in the first couple of areas where you will only get one or two enemies at a time, so it doesn't really become a problem.
Gotcha.
The the biggest thing with this is that the sequel that they made was a full 3D open world Souls-like game.
Yep.
And it's just the trippiest thing to go from I haven't played the new one, but I've been watching a lot of stuff on it now. Is it's exactly the same mechanics and plays exactly the same from a 3D perspective. And I love like the interpretation, like the difference between interpretation generally, like when things are in book form, like the Gears books and
Sure.
how
Like
they go to the
adaptations of. Yeah.
adaptations and all that kind of stuff and what changes and stuff. And that it looks like they got it right on point. And the games are pretty cheap too.
It
So
it does sound like they're kind of
hmm,
done similar to like a Risk of Rain, where they went from like one style of game to a completely different style of
yeah.
game, but with
Yeah,
so much of those
exactly.
same mechanics.
Yeah.
That's really
Yeah.
cool. That's yeah. I'm very keen to play it. I've got it sitting here, ready to
Yeah,
go.
yeah. Yeah, so I actually had it loaded up before we started as well to kind of make sure that I, was talking about it properly. But all the Souls-like stuff is there. If you enjoy all of that, you probably enjoy this a little bit. So,
Great.
mhm. Cool. And I did a little bit of Bramble, not very far through that. The thing that I wanted to mention with this is if you really, really like the Norwegian kind of lore behind the Bramble stuff, go and watch the 2010 movie Troll Hunter. So,
Yes. Okay.
have
Yeah.
you've seen this
Yeah.
one?
Yeah. I've seen Troll.
It
Yeah.
fantastic. My wife hates it.
Sure.
But every time I bring it up, and I always brought it up, it just has all of the different types of trolls in it and all that kind of stuff, and
Hmm.
it was fantastic. So if you kind of like the feel of this in terms of like what they've done with the different types of troll lore, you'll absolutely love that movie. And yeah, so it's been up for a while. I think you have to buy it on Prime or something to actually watch it, but I ended up with it on disc at one point.
Hmm.
So but I'm not very far through Bramble. The first time I died was just trying to jump. I jumped from a platform to a tree vine perfectly fine,
Yeah.
but then I got halfway through and I'm like, I wonder what would happen if I jumped off, and that was just the stupidest mistake
Yep.
I could have because
Trust. I died a lot. Like as I did one
yep,
playthrough of that game and did like cloud
yep,
save deletion the entire way
yep,
through.
yep,
I spent more time on the cloud save than some of the levels. Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
die
yeah.
so easily in that game.
Yeah. And I loaded it back up and then got down the bottom of that tree and jumped off and jumped into a bear trap.
Yep. Yep.
So
It's
I'm
yeah.
like, for fuck's sake, I didn't even see it. There's an area a little bit further on from that where there are still bear traps, but they're in the water, and you can only see them in the water when the troll that's looking for you, shines the light like Batman Arkham's
Yep.
Asylum kind of
So you got
style,
to remember where they
shines
are.
the light over the water, and you have to make sure you're not, you know, walking into them
It reminds me
essentially.
a lot
So
of like Limbo and Brothers, where it's kind of like
Brothers
large,
was the big thing that I thought of. Yeah.
yeah, it's like scary
Yeah.
stuff that will fuck you up really badly,
Yeah. Yeah.
and like sort of like you kind of outsmart things.
Yeah.
But I thought it was
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah. And the first time I died from the butcher in the first little boss battle,
Yeah,
that is brutal.
yeah. This game does not pull
So
any punches. Like it has a
yeah,
content warning for a reason.
yeah, exactly right. So, and then I'll quickly touch on. I finished Resident Evil today. Not the achievements wise, I still have a bit to go with that, but I did my first playthrough with Chris. Fourth stream happened today, and yesterday was the third one. I did a couple of days worth of that.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, the first playthroughs, right? I was spending the time with the streams doing a proper playthrough, reading all of the notes and stuff that kind of come up. So that's the kind of thing that takes the time. Definitely not speed running the game, but I might have mentioned this previously when I was talking about Resident Evil Zero, but the the difference between Resident Evil 1 now and the Resident Evil that originally came out, the PS1 version,
Hmm.
and even the director's cut from that was a little bit different as well, is that I was always fixated on that original version because I played it so much that
Yeah.
when the GameCube version came out and I played it, I loved playing through it. But the thing that stuck in my mind was how different it was.
Sure. Yeah.
So, and that was the thing stopping me from going back and playing it again. And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know if I really like that version.
Mm.
Because there's so many puzzles and that, and I just don't know if I really liked it. And then I played it through this time, and it holds up great.
Yeah.
I actually really like this version of the game now. So it does round things out. I think they've rumored that Resident Evil Zero is getting remade. I think you
Yeah.
were talking
Code
about.
Veronica and Zero look like the next ones, and
Yeah,
then potentially
yeah.
one after that.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing with those is that they really need to tie up the Leech storyline.
Yes, they need to actually do something
Yeah,
with that because it kind of goes
yeah,
nowhere. Yeah.
yeah. And if you, well, I mean, and if you've played 7 and 8 before going into them finalizing with whatever's happening with Resident Evil 9, tying the storyline back to the original game,
Mm.
which they definitely have done
Yeah.
in notes that you find
Especially
in a
in A.
lore room.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You find a lore room in both games that explain basically the whole game to you at the end of the game. And less so, well, is it less so or more so in 8? I don't know
Well,
which one's
eight has
worse.
the thing where you kind of find out like the tie-in with Spencer and the mansion and that kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yes, exactly that one. Yeah, yeah. So that's the main thing that ties back to the original game.
Mm.
So I think they really want to lean in on those two elements, and they need to tie the leeches in properly, and they need that to be or just retcon it completely, right? And have it just slightly something else.
Sure.
But I'm interested in just trying to find like little links between Resident Evil 1 and 0 that they kind of drew from for the new more recent games. So I'm glad that I really went through and played those
Yeah.
first. Like, I mean, I played 7 and 8 first, I mean, and then played these. So I could kind of pick up on kind of anything that they were kind of pulling from inspiration in terms of tying it back.
Mm.
So, which very loosely, I would like to see what they really do with it now. So
Yeah,
to
they seem to be
change.
doing a good job with
Mm.
the kind of this new universe that they're making.
They are, and I'm quite happy that they're going action orientated. Once again, completely different style. The old games can exist with the new games,
Exactly.
and you can appreciate both separately. Perfectly down for that. I love it when that happens. So
Agreed.
it's fine. Hmm.
All right. I think it's everything we've been playing. I will
Yeah.
quickly go through the leaderboards. In third place, we have our own very own Shane Firehawk D with 3,000. We have also our very own Professor Pluto with 3,060. But taking first place, we've got Ozbuff Fanatic with 3,238
Nice.
this week. Good
Back
job,
up
guys.
in
It's
the
nice to see
leaderboard.
some reasonable numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. I know.
Things have obviously
Right.
calmed down
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've also got the word challenge. Like I said last week, Jake ruined it for everyone by guessing Super Smash Brothers
Hmm.
Ultimate.
Hmm.
And then reminded me that I'd chosen the wrong fucking GIF. He gave me the perfect one, unfortunately, that I should have used. But I've come up with a new one. And because I'm feeling generous, I'm going to make this a nice, easy clue. This game is a Microsoft IP.
There you go. There you go.
Yep, that's all you're getting for this one. Could be, I mean, again, Microsoft IP, still pretty broad, but yeah, I want to see some guesses.
Yeah, yeah. We should probably go on to the completion shoutouts.
Yes, absolutely.
So the Char with many names. So Charlotte did Saints Row 3. Finally got that completion off. Did finally? I think they've been sitting on that one for a while.
A long time. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, was that the one that you did co-op with?
Yes, yeah, we played through co-op, but
yeah, exactly. That was ages ago.
Ages ago, yeah. But they were missing some of the challenges, so just kind of sat down and did those. It was great.
Yeah, Shadow Sly did Assault Heroes. Rapture did Killer Clowns from Outer Space. I didn't even know that was out yet.
Yeah, it's a sort of two isometric multiplayer Dead by Daylight kind of thing, right?
Yeah, exactly, right. Bramble as well, so there's a bit of that on here. Splice did Black Ops 2 and Return of Obra Dinn.
Return of Obra Dinn is so fucking good. One of my favorite games. So
yeah,
good.
That's the one that looks like a Game Boy game, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
I need to go and do that. I see that floating around and I haven't jumped on it.
Yeah.
Firehawk did Bramble and Skull Island, Rise of Kong, so we actually got through the game by the sounds of it.
My next milestone game, for sure.
There you go. The Moonzom did Kona, Bottle of Sharks did Super Hot Mind Control Delete, Professor Pluto did Plague Tale Innocence, Just Jake did Project Cars, so got that done nice. Kirby did Bramble, but that's done. He was talking in the chat about that, and Lord Mud did Mass Effect Andromeda. Not the first time that's come up in this show, and Hypercharge. Yeah. So
nice work, everyone. And then just a quick shout out to our Patrons, patreon.com/HaulerGamers. Huge thank you to Lee Howard, Mikhail KV, Natolinator, Mad Lefty, Admiral Awesome, Happy Miracles, Kung Fu Skills, Hack and Pone, Cavalier 07, Old Mate Clown, Mark B, McLovin Legend, Mace J, Left for Legacy, and McNulty. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. We literally could not afford to do it without you guys. If you are interested in joining our Patreon, we do put up extra content for before and after show stuff, as well as any kind of bonus content, lights, camera, and action. I'm thinking about putting up the video and audio for the stream, for the Xbox conference stream on there as well. If you want to check that out. All of our content is available at any tier. We don't like to gate it, so anything you can provide, we will take. We greatly appreciate all the support. Thank you very much. And I guess that's going to bring us into the show. I don't have anything to shill, but Keo, what have you got going on?
Yep, streaming the Jill playthrough on Resident Evil 1. So I am doing both Chris and Jill. So I'll be doing that from next week. I also have videos going up on YouTube. So after the last time I was on here, I was bumbling about with my HDFG play business, which I do on a lot of the episodes. I kind of sat down and did a whole refresh across all my channel and my social media and stuff like that. So I redid all my slides, my end game start screens, all that kind of stuff, and like banners and things. So I fully set up the YouTube as How to Fix Gaming, which is a nod to some old podcast stuff that I did. And the channel's still HDF Gaming, so How to Fix Gaming. It was always that. So this is kind of just extending the app basically on making it easier to find. And you can basically find me at Keel Live at home everywhere else. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And as always, I'm Neomaster on everything, True Achievements, Xbox, and Discord. That has been episode 127. We will catch you guys next week. See you later.
Peace out.